YouTube right now. We're going to start the podcast recording in a second. All right. It is Saturday, May 24 weekend, the 16th of May. We got Mike on the line. What's up, Mike?
What's up?
How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing? Is it really May 24 weekend?
Yeah, it is. It's a long weekend. I got Monday off.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
so, the theme of the show, Transracialism. You did a deep dive.
Yeah, I did
Welcome
a deep
to
dive.
the Cave of
so,
Time.
let's just jump into it.
Agreed.
I'm going to start basically by talking about Rachel Dolezal. She's the most prominent trans racial person in the world by far. She's also like the most kind of acceptable. And actually, even before we start talking about her, I kind of want to put a caveat on this, that all the kind of like arguments and points of view I'm going to kind of talk about kind of assume that you already agree with transsexuality.
Transgenderism,
yeah. Like from a left point of view, from a very open-minded, accepting left point of view. And that's not to say that like you can't argue against that, or that's the fact. Basically, the only like, first of all, like where we grew up in Canada, like it is a fact, like it's built into the law, and like it literally is a thing that you can't argue with without like getting into a lot of trouble. But more than that, it's just that if you don't believe in transgenderism, you're not going to believe in transracialism. It's like almost impossible that you would support any of these people and their ideas. So if you're like screaming at us during this podcast, like you guys are fucking idiots, like I totally get it. I totally am down to like hear arguments against this from the other side. But for the case of this podcast, like it's just, we're going to pretend that they're like transgenderism.
What are your priors though? Do you what is your perspective on transgenderism?
Transgenderism? Well, I mean, it's a big topic for probably a whole podcast, but basically I think there's like no solid all-encompassing scientific theory that satisfies transgenderism. But
what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, like if you say you've got kind of like a female brain and a male brain and you're switched, like there's problems with that. If you say it's a social construct, there's problems with that.
What are the problems with the brain thing?
Well, it's very like it excludes a whole bunch of people that consider themselves trans that would then not be able to be trans, right? So like it's not a perfect explanation of what it is to be trans in the real world.
And well, I mean, as far as I understand, the brain thing is, in a sense, a perfect explanation. But you're right; it would exclude some people who say they are
so that
trans,
would be like trans medicalism or something, right? Where you'd say, okay, like you've got this brain, like, and also like people don't get brain scans to do transgender.
No, I believe in the studies that are talked about in this transgender brain thing, they did do brain scans.
Sure, but like not everyone who transitions gets a brain scan.
Yeah.
So like it's not real world applicable, right? There's holes in it. There's problems with it. I just feel like it's obviously a thing in Canadian society that's very accepted, and it's not going anywhere. And that's the other reason why I'm not going to question it in this podcast, because like transgenderism, for all intensive purposes, is here to stay. Like it's not going anywhere. It's not going to disappear.
Yeah.
So I don't see the point in, especially for transracialism, I don't see the point in kind of like arguing against transgender things. So anyways.
Okay. So just to put a ribbon on that, you think there's some problems with the theory, but in general, you kind of just accept it and run past it.
No, I have like a whole bunch of questions that haven't been answered. I guess I'm not sure. Like I'm on the fence.
Okay, cool.
I wouldn't go one way or the other.
I'm satisfied.
So Rachel Dolezal, if you're interested in learning about her, she's got a Netflix special. She has been in the news, I guess, since 2017, when she was famously publicly outed for being a white person. She was a member of the NAACP, not a member, the head of it, where she lived in Washington, I believe. And she was basically like Shaun King, as big as Shaun King, if not bigger. And she had passed as a black woman for years. Everybody thought she was black. Everyone accepted she was black. She was welcomed by the community. She was a voice for the community.
I mean, you can't really get to the head of the NAACP without being black. Yeah,
exactly. Like,
and she says that like on her like traffic tickets, like the police would mark off like black.
Yeah, there's like no doubt that the majority, like not the majority, like everybody believed that she was black, unless they had known her from before, and they were silent about it. Nobody brought it up, and no one talked about it. And so when she kind of was outed, a lot of people called her a grifter, and they were saying that she had just said that she was black, basically to like make money and kind of con people out of this and con her way into a career. But when I looked into it, that's completely not true. So she grew up in a very kind of strange religious household. This is from her book. She has a book, by the way. She grew up in this really religious household, and I guess because they're kind of really out there in the religion, the family ended up adopting a lot of children, and it was difficult for them to find white children and easier for them to get black kids. So she grew up with a lot of black people, but she didn't grow up like in a black neighborhood and was like, oh, I'm going to imitate these people because I like them. When she talks about growing up, she was like, from the age of 5, I used to color myself in with a brown crayon. I always thought I was black. I always knew I was black. It's something that that's who I've always been. I'm not becoming someone else. And the reason I bring it up is because she was outed, not because people caught on where she was working or people in the media looked into her. What happened was her brother, her biological brother, who's white, sexually abused one of the black sisters of hers who was adopted. And basically Rachel sided with the sister and was going to go to court to testify against her brother. And so her family released the information to like basically a private detective who released it to a journalist who then like doxed her basically to completely destroy her character. So when she went to be a character witness, they couldn't like use her as a good character for the trial.
I think we got that clip. Did you want to play that?
Yeah, you could totally play that now. Actually, you're talking about her being outed, right?
Yeah. What was the name of that? Oh wait, did you have that clip in the ones you sent me?
Yeah, it should be there.
Yeah, I thought you did. Do you remember what the title is?
I have it right here in case I don't.
Yeah, I thought you sent that one to me. Anyways, keep talking. I'll find it.
I have it right here. Let me just send it to you on Telegram. So yeah, like the thing to think about this when you look at this clip is just imagine this is a trans person being outed for being trans. Just imagine this is a person who passes as the gender that they purport to be, and someone just comes up to them and says these things, but not about race, about gender. And then just try and keep that in your mind while you're watching this.
All right, I'm going to play it right now.
Is that your dad?
Yeah, that's my dad.
This man right here is your father? Right there?
You have a question about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I was wondering if your dad really is an African-American man.
That's a very... I mean, I don't know what you're implying.
Are you African-American?
I don't understand the question of... I did tell you that, yes, that's my dad. And he was unable to come in January.
Are your parents... Are they white?
So she walks off camera and away from the interview. This is I think ABC Channel 4 and probably some local ABC broadcaster there.
Yeah, it was some nobody. It was just nobody interviewing her that they got it. But yeah, I mean, so transgender and transracial issues to me seem to correlate immensely. They seem to run parallel to each other immensely. Mm-hmm. So like you've got a person here who lives successfully in a different race. Nobody cares. Nobody notices. Everybody like they're very loved and appreciated and praised in the community. And then they're like got this public thing that happens that completely embarrasses them. And basically like she landed on her toes at the end of it, but it basically ruined her life. Like it basically completely ruined her life.
That's questionable. I mean, she has a Netflix special right now. Like,
sure, okay, sure. She has a Netflix special now, But this was 3 years ago, and she had to go on food stamps. Like she can't go in public. Her life is
it radically changed her life. Yeah, it radically
Yeah.
changed her life.
And it's not like
it's pretty clear that she was not like going for that. Like we'll get into some figures later that it seems like maybe they're looking for attention, but like it doesn't seem like she was trying to create a spectacle of herself or anything like that.
No, and like when she talks about it later in life, or I guess like recently, she says like, well, I knew that it was something that would have to be addressed eventually, but like she basically didn't want it to be like that. And again, that mirrors what a lot of trans people go through, right? Let's say if you had a partner and you were trans and you got with them and they didn't know you were a man, but they thought like you're living as a woman and they don't know that you were born as a man. Like you might be like, okay, well, what if they want to have kids? What if we want to start a family? Like, what am I going to tell them? They don't know. Whatever the reason is, that's just one example. But like, there's tons of examples you could think of where trans people would be in that situation and not want to be outed. And same with like LGBT people, homosexuals would not want to be outed either, right? So it just kind of like very much mirrors. Rachel Dolezal very much mirrors what would happen to a transgender person, right? And yeah, like everything about her doesn't seem like a lie. Like she hasn't given it up. It would have been totally easy for her to be like, yeah, all right, you guys caught me. Like, I'm really white. She hasn't done that. She's like, no, I'm black. I know I'm black.
Yeah, so like she in some of her interviews, when she talks about race, she's like, well, there's a whole bunch of different ways to define it, and there's the biological, but there's also the socio-cultural aspects of it, and that is a common argument these days. In fact, it seems like it's the most popular. I remember a couple of years ago. Probably like 5 years ago, I first, dipped my toes into like transgenderism theory. And I didn't understand it at all. And I think it was actually YouTube comment sections. I was like, just interacting with some people, and I got pointed to some of those studies, aforementioned studies that we were talking about, where there are brain scans and there's actually differences between male and female brains. And sometimes someone who has a male body could have a brain that is more closely associated with a female brain. So there is that kind of biological aspect to it. But the arguments that I tend to see, like if I'm just scanning the Twitter sphere or YouTube or just in regular conversation with people, it's that gender is a social construct, right? And that people can therefore just kind of they can move around within that social construct. And the overarching perspective on race today is that it is also a social construct. So in that sense, like where is the beef?
Well, so gender is purported to be fluid. Race is absolutely fluid. Like, how could it not be? And
what do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you could be different races. You could be part this race, part that race. You could be mixed race, right?
Well, from a biological standpoint, you can't change races throughout your life.
No, I understand that. But it's like, so we already accept, like, there are people who are, say, like 10 or 15% black.
Yeah.
But the rest of them is white.
Yes.
And if they look black enough, they'll just pass as black. They'll totally pass as black, right? And so you don't be like, oh, well, that person isn't black enough. Most people, there are some black people who say things like, you have to be a majority black to be black. But in everyday life, most people don't think that way. It's just, if you've got your skin's dark enough and you're some part black, you're black. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but these people would be called mixed race people generally. They like, and they would be born that way and they would die that way. It's not something that like at age 12, like biologically, you could be like, you know what? Now I'm Finnish. Now I'm Swedish.
Sure, but okay, but fair enough. It's not something that most people change. I definitely agree with that. But there is that like give where, you know, you could have somebody who's 15% and looks the same as someone else's 15%, and one grew up in a white culture and one grew up in a black culture, and they would talk differently and act differently and like be perceived differently in the world if they went on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or the news or whatever. Like, it's totally easy to see that you could see people who are the same genetic makeup but have different expressions of their race.
Yeah. Okay.
So there is a lot of give and there is a lot of fluidity.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, I just want you to show the clip of her on the reel, so people can see kind of like how she was received by the black community.
Sure thing.
And this is there's a black woman here talking. Can you see it? I said it starts at 41 seconds.
41 seconds, sure. You want me to press play?
Yeah, do it.
All right now.
Let me tell you something. I'm black. I can't be you. I can't reverse myself. Let me tell you, Rachel. If the police got me, you could throw that off and show that little like nice fine hair up under, and you might get away. I may not even make it in the jail. Well,
I'm pausing right now.
Yeah,
I'm just paranoid about like fair use and everything. So like we should pause frequently and talk frequently, even if it's not warranted, just so we don't get copyright strikes.
We can totally talk.
Yeah.
So what she's saying is not true at all. That's not like, oh, because I'm dark skinned, I'm black. Like, there's no way that anyone would ever look at me as a white person. And it's like, that's not true. Like, you could get surgeries to look white. You could lighten your skin. You could talk differently. Like, you could, if you had enough money, perceivably totally pass as white. And this is another argument in the transgender community. They say, well, like, you pass, but like this person looks like a woman, so they are, but this person will never look like a woman, so they're not really a woman. How can you call this person a woman? Like, they've got broad shoulders and a beard and this and this and that. And like, the transgender community does not accept that as an argument. Like, oh, well, I can't look like he can't look like a woman, so he isn't. They would not accept that.
Oh yeah.
And that's a mainstream opinion. So I don't know why she's getting so much shit from this girl, basically. Like, it seems to be like this girl is, and this is what the real. I don't know.
Yeah.
These talk shows of women. I would bet money that all these women support transgenderism. All of them.
Yeah.
So like,
at least publicly, yeah.
Oh yeah. Maybe not in private. Well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's why they don't support transgenderism.
Why? Because they think it would lead to transracialism?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think.
You think they're that deep thinkers? I don't know. I don't get the impression that they're that deep thinkers.
But yeah, I mean, let's let it play a bit so you can see like
cool.
the crowd's reaction and everyone.
Cool.
Ready?
Yeah, just played it.
Well, Rachel, following that, I have a question.
Right.
What does being black mean to you? And why? Why do you want to be black?
Well, I think that, sometimes how we feel is more powerful than how we're born.
Okay.
And blackness can be defined as philosophical, cultural, biological, a lot of different things, a lot of different people. And I think you do have to kind of like walk the walk if that's who you are.
Okay.
Just pausing right now.
So
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so like that response totally mirrors what a transgender person would say, like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong with the timeline on that, but the parallel is there. So I think this is a group of people who aren't taken seriously because there's so few of them that are out. But I legitimately now think, after looking at this, that there's a lot more people who, if encouraged, would come out as transracial.
Okay, so I mean, there's the whole wigger phenomenon, and the other side of things, there's acting white.
Yeah.
Would you call those people, like, would you call a wigger a transracial person?
Well, again, so like, if I accept hook, line, and sinker transgenderism, yeah, it's totally possible. I think it would depend on what they call themselves.
But okay, because I think most of those people wouldn't call themselves black.
Yeah, so then no, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But I think some of those people would call themselves black if it was socially acceptable. It totally isn't, right? It's not an option for them unless they want to be like, the pioneers of transracialism, and who the fuck wants to do that, right? Like, who wants to die on that hill?
Yeah. So do you see transracialism becoming more prominent?
Totally. Totally.
You know?
Absolutely. I just don't see how you can not take it seriously if you're going to take transgenderism seriously, and people take transgenderism
Yeah,
really seriously.
I agree with that. My doubt as to transracialism becoming more prominent is with gender, we have things like the color pink, baking muffins, being maternal, and on the other side of things like hunting, fishing, playing football. These things are, I think, much more hard ingrained. They run much deeper. They're much more widely accepted than behavioral standards between races. I don't think that there's much enforcement of behavioral standards between races as opposed to genders. And I don't think that there's I just don't think there's as much material there to really have many people coming up and feeling this discordance with the race they are assigned versus the race they feel. I just don't. I wonder if there's not enough there for this to ever become a prominent thing.
Well, one of the things you see with this are people who are adopted and they're black and put in a white family. And there's a couple of them that didn't know that they were adopted and they weren't told.
Mm.
And it's like, it seems almost like a farce when you look at these people. You're looking at like a young black lady who's 21 years old. And she's saying things like, I didn't know I was black. I found out I was black when I hit university and everyone started making fun of me for telling them I was white. And it's like, how did your parents let this go on so long? I guess she thought that she had like some black. I guess they told her like, oh yeah, we've got Uncle so and so. He's half black. He's a quarter black. I guess those genes just came out for you. But she had this total like meltdown about who she was, and totally caused her a lot of stress. So I could totally see those kind of people having trouble. And then the other thing is that in transgender community, there are a lot of people who are non-binary, right? And so they don't subscribe one way or the other. They say like, oh, well, I'm not going to fit in any of these categories. I'm not going to go hunting or fishing or whatever. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want and be in the middle and like mash it all up and throw it in your face kind of thing. Their attitude is about gender blending and blurring the lines. And so I see no reason why, if they can exist in the trans space, somebody couldn't exist in the transracial space with like more blurring, right? Less defined roles for each side. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, there's I guess I could jump ahead. There's a guy named Jadu. So he's a guy that lives in California.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to play any clips from him just because they're kind of boring, but
I'll put up his pic.
He is a man in California. Yeah, throw up a pic. This is a man who was born white and is now a woman. So she also identifies as a Filipina, and her mom kind of didn't take her seriously. Her community doesn't take her seriously, and she just says the same kind of thing. She says like, "Well, when I was growing up, I grew up in an area where there were a lot of wiggers, and their parents hated it and came down on them hard and didn't basically told them if they didn't cut that shit out, that they'd be disowned and kicked out." And
this pic you sent me is like, so low resolution. I disown you for this pic. But yeah, go on.
Strong disavow.
Yeah. Go on. Sorry, go on.
So basically, she's like, I wonder how many of these wiggers would have identified as black if they had been given the opportunity.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things.
Their race as they want to.
So, like, one of the common features of transgendered people is that they grew up in households that had very strict enforcement of gender roles, right? So it was like men do this, women do this. Men play with G.I. Joes, women play, and like if you're painting a picture instead of throwing the football, then you are not a man. And then so, okay, well, I guess I'm not a man then, And not to say that is the cause of all transgenderism and write it off like that, but that is a common feature throughout a lot of transgender people's histories.
Yeah, I think the number one place in the world for transgenderism is some Middle Eastern country where basically all the homosexuals get told they're women. So they're like, fuck it, we'll just be women then. Because if we transition, we get left alone.
Oh, and you don't know what
So-
country that is?
I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. I was listening to Michael Malice talk about that actually, but it was very interesting.
Well, yeah, that's consistent with him.
Yeah, so why don't we throw on the Whoopi Goldberg clip, because this is kind of like a more positive.
Yeah.
Someone, Whoopi Goldberg, obviously black, obviously very accepted in the black community, obviously a voice of authority, I would say. Throw that on whenever you want.
Yep, I'm just gonna press play right now.
I think that another part that people had a problem with her bypassing and is also that she was speaking to a lot of young black youth and telling them, I know how you feel. I've been through blah, blah, blah.
And they're talking about Rachel Dolezal right now.
You can't know. She can want to be part of the culture. She can want to claim that she's
as
black.
far as I'm
but
concerned,
you
if she
do not
wants to
know.
be black, she can be black.
That's fine, but you still do not fully understand what it means to be colored in this
Well, she
country
does, and
unless
she's been.
you are.
I'm sorry, but she's been passing as this woman for over 5 years. If this bitch don't know by now what it's like, she's never gonna know. She's never gonna know. But wait.
You want to talk there? Yeah. So I mean, I think it's a totally legit point. Like, they're saying, how could she ever know what it's like to be black? So they're saying, like, how could you know what it's like to be black? And it's like, well, she's been passing as black for 5 years.
Yeah.
How could she not fucking know? Everyone's treated her like she's been black for 5 years of her life. How could she not understand what it feels like?
Yeah.
You know? And
man, I remember the Sister Act days. You remember Whoopi Goldberg was like an icon when we were like kids. Like, remember Sister Act and all that? Like, she had a whole bunch of like, yeah. I mean, I used to be a fan, and then like I really didn't like a lot of her takes on The View. I really didn't like her social commentary and everything. But you know, this clip, I'm like, okay, Whoopi, thinking outside the box. I like that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with her. And again, it's another argument that someone would make against a transgender person. How could you know what it's like to be a woman? You spent 20 years as a man, and now you're 22 and you're transitioning, and you think you're a woman? Give me a fucking break. That's ridiculous. You don't know what it's like to be like.
That argument is made a lot, right? It's called like TERFs. Like, well, one of the groups that make that argument is TERFs, like trans exclusionary radical feminists.
Sure, but it's not acceptable in like the mainstream society around transgenderism. That argument is garbage to them.
Yeah.
That does not fly with them. So why is it like, look at these people, look at these women. I don't know if you saw them on the screen. I do. But
Yeah.
These are not hardcore conservative women. Like, these are not hardcore religious like zealots who are like, no, fuck trans people. These are like people who consider themselves open-minded. They're Hollywood elite. Like, they're as far left as it gets. And for some reason they don't make the connection, or except for, I guess Whoopi does, but
so
Rosie Perez,
we're seeing like Whoopi Goldberg here embody it, but we're seeing like greater and greater acceptance. Like whatever it was, like 50, 60 years ago, gay people began to be accepted and embraced by wider society. Later, there's transgendered. We're talking about transracial now, and you're suspecting that this will become more prominent. I'm questioning that, but I certainly agree with everything that you said as far as like why it might become more prominent. Do you think that there's anything? What is the next step? What might become prominent after transracialism?
After transracialism? Oh man, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because there's like a whole bunch of people who identify as like animals, right?
Yep. Now,
so I guess
it's much harder to make the argument that like species are social constructs. I mean, they are. Species are social constructs. I would say also like race, like it is a social construct, but it is real at the same time. But if you can just write things off as social constructs, I don't know. Are you saying that you think that could be a next step? People who identify as
I've been listening to a lot of ContraPoints, because ContraPoints is probably like the most prominent internet voice on.
Crazy how famous she's gotten. Like we were talking about her earlier in the week. This girl is making. I did the math, and it's got to be around $500,000 a year, as far as all her sources of income. That's insane.
I mean, she's doing very well.
She does like one video a month. I mean, it's good content. She does do good content, but yeah.
So anyway, she was doing a video. It's about a year old or something, and she goes through all the arguments for transgenderism. And basically, at the end, she's like, "Well, none of them are really perfect, but like, why do we need to explain ourselves to people? Like, you can't explain how you love your children, and you don't have to. Like, it's just the thing that you know that is
But you
that is
can
real.
you can kind of explain that.
Well, I mean, like love that is kind of like where they're coming from, right? Like, how can you prove that you love someone? Why do you love who you love?
How do you prove it?
Like,
Yeah,
you just why do you love the person you love? Because
Mm-hmm.
you love them. You just do. Like, there's no one would ever hold you to the standard. Like, you have to explain it.
Yeah,
You got to prove it. I can't see it in your brain. Like, and so they're kind of pushing transgenderism into one of these things where it is such a social construct that you don't have to kind of like prove it, but it's obvious, it's self-evident, right? Like, love is self-evident, and so if they can get it into this kind of category of things, then it'll be there forever, and I think that's probably their goal, right?
Mm-hmm. I think it's
So I was
important.
gonna say,
I think it's important to define what a social construct is. So, like, when we talk about social constructs, and I've brought this analogy up to you before, like, think of stools and tables, like stools that you sit on and tables. In a sense, the definition of a stool and the definition of a table is a social construct, but we recognize what it is based on that social construct, and they are, on average, different. You can have a stool that people eat food off of. You can have a table that people sit on. You can have a table that is smaller than any stool, and you can have a stool that is bigger than any table. There's actually no defining line between it. So the defining lines that we put in is a social construct. But the fact of the matter is, stools and tables exist. It was somewhat unrelated, but I just wanted to put that out there in the conversation.
yeah, no, I totally agree, and I was gonna say there's kind of like one of the reasons I think this isn't taken as seriously as transgenderism is because there is no transracial contrapoints. Like, there is contrapoints is like one of many articulate, intelligent, serious voices for transgenderism. There's profs who talk about it. There's politicians that talk about it. There's lawyers. There's like educated professionals everywhere that will support transgenderism and who are transgender, right? But we don't know how many transracial people they are, and they are not outspoken about it. And it's easy to see why they're not outspoken about it. And it kind of leads into what the next couple of people I want to talk about, who are outspoken about it and like just get destroyed over and over and over again. So I guess probably the next most famous one is Martina Big. You have a picture of Martina Big you can put up?
Yeah, I think you sent me one. I'll put that up.
So Martina Big is this European woman. I think she's Swedish or something. But she used to be a model, decided to change her race, and she also got like enormous boobs, which I don't think was part of the race changing. But she has a very interesting body, let's say. And her and her husband are both transracial. They've done these injections that, or medication, I'm not sure how it works, but they darken their skin by taking, and again, it's just like how trans people take hormones. So they've taken this medical route that has been able to darken their skin and get darker and darker and darker and darker. It changes your hair. It makes your hair more nappy, and it'll like actually grow out like black people have their hair. And she...
No way. I actually didn't know that. Are you saying these injections make your hair nappy?
Yeah, as far as what I can tell, yeah.
Oh, wow.
People who claim to use them, they say it makes your hair, like, it actually changes the color and the consistency of the texture of your hair.
Okay, didn't know that.
So, basically, this woman is relegated to telling her story on, like, trashy talk shows. Like, she is not getting a book deal. I mean, maybe she's got a book deal. Maybe she's going to get a Netflix special. But, like, she's just not given the same kind of seriousness that Rachel Dolezal is given. And
well, she looks more like a caricature, right? And she also like her boobs. For those who can't see the photo on the podcast, her boobs are what are these, like Z cups? Like, these are massive.
I think she's S or double S. I think is the number.
Okay. And like everything she's wearing is very gaudy. From the way she does her hair to her clothing, makeup, all her style is just a very flamboyant, gaudy caricature.
Yeah, and so like she goes on these talk shows basically where she's like, she's a circus freak. She's there for people to laugh at and gawk at. She's not like, they have this kind of idea where they sit her down and they're like, okay, so why did you want to be black? But there is no, like, that is such a veneer, a thin veneer over, we're here to fucking laugh at you.
Yeah.
Like, we are here to make fun of you.
Yes.
You're a fucking joke.
It's Jerry
the
Springer
audience
type
thinks
stuff.
you're a joke. It's Jerry Springer. It's like P.T. Barnum. It's the circus, you know, like.
Yeah.
And I really actually respect her a lot.
She seems pretty cool.
She
yeah.
sits there. She seems totally cool. She takes all the slings and arrows and she's like, hey, look, I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm still learning what it means to be black. I learn a little more every day, but this is me. This is who I am. And I think the world would be a better place if people just accepted who each other were and we listened to each other more. And that her attitude is very like passive, and she's not aggressive at all, and she's not angry, and she totally understands like how people don't believe her. She's like, I get it. You don't think I'm black, but I know I am, and that's okay. You don't have to accept me. I accept me. She's very confident, and she's very sure of herself, you know. And so again, like Caitlyn Jenner gets to transition, and she's celebrated on magazine covers, and like, is there anybody in the world who is going to say with a straight face that an Olympic athlete man, like broad shoulders, like one of the most manliest looking men out of the 80s, could transition to a woman and nobody's going to question it? Nobody's going to be like,
a lot of people question it.
Okay, come on. Sure, but like, the questions are dismissed as bigotry or not understanding.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's a disagreement there? Why do you think that transgenderism seems to be accepted kind of by, I guess, the powers that be or the establishment or just the mainstream, and something like transracialism is seen as ridiculous? Do you think it's just the passing of time? Like, well, what's your thoughts on that?
I think the passing of time probably has to do with it, because transgender people, like you can meet like people who are like 80 years old who are transgender, right?
So one of my thoughts of this, like as far as transracialism, and we're talking about the greater inclusion of all these different groups throughout the history of Western civilization. One of my thoughts on this is that something like transracialism, in some sense, is inevitable to be accepted. Like I said, I already expressed what some of my doubts are as far as the like fuel behind the movement. But you could say that like the seed, like so this fruit of transracialism we see on the tree, and people are like, oh, that's a weird looking fruit. It's attached to a tree that the seeds were planted hundreds or thousands of years ago, and in a sense you could say that since John Locke's philosophies were popularized and accepted, and the thing that Western society, civilization is kind of being driven by. So we've got like the separation of church and state. We've got the putting liberty on a pedestal and individual freedoms. Yeah, and blank slateism, like, everybody's born like the same, and like it's all about like what your experiences that put imprints on you. So if you accept all these different philosophies as true, which is what is basically the bedrock of our society, it was almost baked into the cake that like homosexuality would come to be accepted, transgenderism is coming to be accepted, and then you could see a natural progression into transracialism being accepted, and yeah, it's interesting to think of where it would go. Like I said, I'm not sold on transracialism becoming a thing, just because, as I said, like I don't know if the fuel is there for it. But there's no discord. There's no discordance with our society if you actually just look at like logical, if this then that. It's a natural next step in the progression.
Well, I mean, like race in general is like kind of ridiculous, right? So you could be black, living in Africa, not speak English, live in a hut somewhere, and then you can be black, living in America. Like Jay-Z is black. Like who thinks that Jay-Z and this person living in sub-Saharan Africa share anything in common? Like they're like, why is it? Why are they both black? Like, what makes this person black and that person black?
Well, I mean, you could say the same thing about gender. Would you say the same thing about gender?
Well,
or sex rather?
I mean, maybe you could say the same thing. Like, you don't really have. I mean, that might be actually one of the arguments that is better suited to race than it is to gender, because like you are born pretty much one gender, right? But you could be very, when you're born a gender, you're similar to everyone in your gender, but you could be born a race and be different to a lot of people in your race, right? So it kind of makes race like
well,
more
different. How do you mean different? Like how
I mean,
you
like,
said if you're born, you can be born a gender and you're similar to everybody in your gender, but you can be born a race and be different. How do you mean that?
So like if you're born a baby girl here, England, New Zealand, wherever, right?
Well, I would stop you if there are any I guess philosophical leftists listening. Born a girl is a gender term. So born female is what
so
you mean to say.
If you're assigned.
Oh, you're breaking up, but yeah,
right.
born female. I don't think anybody disagrees with the biological female-male dichotomy.
You would be like all of the social pressures and stuff around, all of the cultural pressures would be similar, no matter where you were born, right?
That's
Whereas,
not true.
like,
That's not true. Like I mean,
Well,
and these are edge cases, and you could say they're exceptions that prove the rule. But there are like tribes, for instance, where men or women perform roles that are traditionally associated with men, and the pressures are totally different.
Sure. But like most of the time, most of the cases, women are treated a certain way, men are treated a certain way, and those similarities are there and defined. Whereas, like, if you're born black, if you're Jay-Z's kid, and you're some kid in sub-Saharan Africa, you are treated insanely differently. And it's obvious. And there's so many more examples of different cultural differences between black people than there is between genders. And that's not even just black people. Any race you could pick, right? Like, there's so many more social pressures that could push you into a gender or into a race than could push you into a gender. And then, like, race is so much more wishy-washy. Like, when you think about that, like, well, what does it really mean to be black? Like, being black in America is very different than being black somewhere else, right? Anyways,
what do you mean by somewhere else? Like, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. I mean, what you think that a black person in Russia has a radically different experience and nothing in common with a black person in America?
Nothing in common, but less in common.
Less in common than gender. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so like, I don't know. It just seems like, if anything, more of a social construct than gender. If gender is a social construct, and people think it is. So, anyways, Martina Big, again, like, she's not going to get accepted. Throw up Treasure. You have Treasure there?
Is that a picture? What do you mean?
It's a video. There's a girl named Treasure. She's on the Dr. Phil show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I got it.
Throw that on. Just the beginning of that. Maybe like a minute.
Okay. Cool. And I might stop this every 10 seconds because I feel like Dr. Phil is something that will copyright strike really easily. Yeah.
I know a lot of people take issue with my beliefs. I'm white. I'm a Caucasian because everything about me is different from an African American. I have naturally straight hair.
So for the podcast audience, I just paused it right now. This is clearly a young black girl. It's like with beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is a young black girl. Anyways, continuing playing now.
Is it so clear though, Jason?
Yeah, I guess we'll delve into that in a second. I'm just gonna keep playing though.
Hair isn't nappy. It doesn't require weave. My nose is not giant as like African Americans. My lips are perfect. They're not too big and they're not too small.
So as she's saying that, like her nose looks like a stereotypical African nose. Her lips look like stereotypical African lips.
Did you pause?
I did pause.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll keep going right now.
Yeah, I mean, like,
they're just perfect.
I don't know what black people's ears are supposed to look like, but apparently she doesn't have them.
Oh, did she say that? I don't know. Does she talk about ears now?
My ears, I don't have black people's ears because they're really
I don't have black people's ears.
Most African Americans speak ghetto. But when it comes to black people, I think they're all ugly and I have nothing in common with them. I'm different from African Americans because I'm white. My figure is just like Kim Kardashian and she's a wonderful role model.
So on that, like, I just paused it, but on the Kim Kardashian role model, no, I mean, so this girl's sister came out and she said that this girl is just doing this for attention, and like she doesn't actually think this, and it's just so she can get on Dr. Phil and all that. Like, I don't know. I'm not, especially when she says like. To say with a straight face, like, to the camera like that, amidst all these other claims, like, my figure's just like Kim Kardashian's, which it isn't, and then say, like, and she's a fantastic role model. It just seems like she's being very, just controversial for attention, really.
Yeah, so she's for anyone listening, she's a young lady. I think she's 16 years old. And it seems like, if you watch like some other interviews from her, it seems like, I don't know, I'm not want to say she was abused. Like, I don't want to slander this person's family, but they asked her like a question about something, and she was like, she basically said something along the lines of like, well, I'm the kind of person that doesn't give a fuck. I would give a homeless person money just to take it away from them so I could see the look on their face as their heart breaks. And I was like, holy fuck, like, what happened to you, man? Like, what? Why do you think that? Like, so she says that she grew up like rich, and then her mom, I guess, got divorced, and they moved to the ghetto, as she puts it, and it was really traumatic for her. But I wouldn't be surprised if she had been like sexually abused or something, or whatever. But again, put up Jessica Yannon. Yeah, nobody who is a serious transgender defender questions Jessica Yannon. Do you know what I mean? So, like, who is the?
Wait a second. Wait a second. Did you just say no one who is a serious transgender activist questions Jessica Yannon?
They don't like her, and they don't think that she's a positive trans role model, but they don't question that she's a woman. They still think that she's trans.
I don't know. I'm not well armed to do this battle, but I don't think that's true. I think a lot of people who are even transgender advocates have a problem with Jessica Yanniv. So Jessica Yanniv, for those who don't know, like, do you want to just give a 15-second like recap on who she is for those who may not know?
You do it. You know who she is.
Okay, well, this is a Canadian, I believe, and she made the news because she went to a waxing salon and demanded, and this is a salon, I believe it was an Asian salon, and she demanded that, and they normally
multiple of them.
Yeah, and they normally do female, like, Brazilian wax type things, and she demanded basically that they wax her balls, and they refused, and she started pursuing that as a sort of hate crime.
Yeah,
is that it? Like that, because it's been a while since I've heard of that.
Well, she was like, one of the reasons it was taken seriously is because of the legislation that's been put into place about treating transgender people equally, and it has to be taken seriously in Canada. Yeah. And so she wasn't made to fill out a form and, hey, this is my brain scan, I'm a female. She was allowed to just say, I'm a woman, that's it. And everyone took her seriously. Her claims went to court. It got processed. I think she lost, but it's still like, she still ruined those salon owners' lives.
Yeah, on that, like, so I mean, there's a lot of people, and there's some sort of palpable push towards not being able to misgender someone. Like, if someone says they're a he, you got to call them he. If they say they're a she, you got to call them she. Wouldn't that be funny though if one day I'm like, yo, Mike, I'm black, and then by the strong arm of the law, you can no longer call me white. I am black. Well, if you say I'm white, we're gonna have a problem.
We're gonna have a problem. Yeah. You better, if you say I'm white, you better wax my balls.
If you say I'm white, okay, but there's going to be a lynching going on in Dominican Republic.
I understand that this person seems to be a spectacle. They seem to be a joke. It seems to be for attention. It seems to be kind of like, I don't know, one of those Catch Me Outside girls who's like just acting out so she can get famous kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like, who are we to say that she doesn't feel that way? We don't know how she feels. On what authority do we deny her experience as a young woman, right?
Sure.
Like, we don't have a leg to stand on. We have no proof that she doesn't feel that way. We have nothing that we could say as like, this is definitive proof that she's a liar. There's not a single piece of evidence we could bring up. And so I kind of think like when researching for this podcast, I had to keep an open mind, and I had to kind of take people at their word, because like if you don't, then you run into trouble. Like, well, then how do I know transgender people are really transgender? How do I know? Like, are they just faking it for attention? Are they just saying it so that they can get a job?
But I mean, I'm assuming you drew the line somewhere. Like if someone, and there are people online that say they're fairies or they say they're dragons, you accept their experience?
Well, so first of all, like I know of people who think that there are cats, and they're not lying. Like they go see psychiatrists because they have a problem. They're like, man, I think I'm a cat. Like it's fucking my life. I don't know what to do. I feel more comfortable. As soon as I go home, I just pretend to be like a cat. I shit in a litter box. And I know.
Wait, you don't know these people personally, do you?
I don't know them personally, but I'm close enough related to these people that I can't talk about it, because like I might get someone I know into trouble who works as a medical professional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they haven't done anything wrong, because, you know, you can, there's leeway with like doctor-patient confidentiality, where as long as you can't identify someone, then you haven't broken that confidentiality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to get anywhere close to that, because I don't want to get them in trouble. So I know these people exist. And, again, like obviously,
okay, but back to my question: So why do you question their experience and not just gay nibs?
Oh, I don't question their experience. I'm saying like I think they really do think they're cats. I just don't think they are cats, right?
Oh, okay.
And so,
do you think Jessica Yaniv is a woman?
Yeah, I mean, yes, going by transgender rules.
Wait, no. I'm not saying going by. I'm saying you.
Do me personally? No, I don't think she's a woman.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you think Caitlyn Jenner is a woman? Do you think Caitlyn Jenner is a woman?
I don't think Caitlyn Jenner.
Do you think Blair White is a woman?
No, I don't think Blair White's a woman.
Okay. Do you think any person commonly accepted as transgender female is a woman?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah, like I mean, like, would I?
What is your definition? What is your definition of a female?
I would tie it to biology. I'd be like.
Sorry, I actually worded that wrong, because female is a biological term. What is your definition of a woman is biological?
Yeah, I would be like a biological determinant. Basically, I'd be a TERF basically.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's interesting. I grew up, like, there was no strict gender stuff. Like, I used to play dress up. I was more into, like, visual arts and arts in general. And I just imagine, like, perhaps if I grew up in a strict household where, like, these are things that women do and men do not do, boys do not do that. Perhaps, like, I would have been like, but that's how I feel. Like, I mean, it's in the realm of possibility that I would have thought I was a woman in that case. Yeah.
Totally. I when I was young in I mean, it's been like preschool, like 4 or something. They had the school play, and it was Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And my teacher's like, okay, you're going to be Papa Bear. You're the biggest kid in class. And I was like, well, I want to be Goldilocks. And the teacher was like, well, you can't be Goldilocks because you're a boy. And I was like, but I want to be Goldilocks. And my teacher said, okay, I tell you what, if you wear a dress, you can be Goldilocks. And I was like, okay, no problem. And so they waited until the end of the day when my mom showed up. And they were like, we got to talk to you. There's a problem. And my mom goes, what's the problem? Well, your son wants to be Goldilocks. And she's like, oh. Okay, Michael, why do you want to be Goldilocks? And I was like, Goldilocks gets to eat all the food, sit in all the chairs, and sleep in all the beds, and she's the star of the show. And Papa Bear just comes in and he yells at everyone. He's grumpy all the time. Like, I don't want to be like that. And my mom said, well, you know, they told you can't be Goldilocks, so I'm sorry, you can't. And I was like, well, they said if I wear a dress, I can be a dress and a wig, I can be Goldilocks. And my mom was like, did you say that to him? And they were like, yeah, we didn't think he would say yes. And she's like, well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you said if he did this, he could do it. Like, what do you want to do? Yeah. And so I ended up being Goldilocks in the school play when I was young.
That's
so
funny.
Again, like, I totally agree with you. Like, if my parents were the kind of people who were like, no, fuck you, you can't be Goldilocks, like, you can't do this, I would think totally differently. I would be like, well, you know, why do I want to be like this? Why is it because I'm really a woman? Like, I totally get into that mindset.
But
right?
do you believe in gender roles in general?
Well, I mean, it would probably depend what society you live in, right? Because they're obviously different for every society. But yeah, I think where we grew up, there's clear gender roles, and I think they're tied to biology. And there's preferences that women have over men that are tied to biology.
Okay, so like, could you not could you not have a personal experience and preference that is of the opposite gender than the biology that you're attached to, and then in that case be transgender in your worldview? But you just said that you don't. You said that you don't
I don't think
believe. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So, well, I don't think you need to be transgender to do any of the things that transgender people do. So, like, I don't think. Let's say Blair White is Blair White wants to get boobs and wants all her friends to call her a woman and wants to be treated as a woman in society. Like, I don't really have a problem with treating her as a woman or calling her a woman in public or private or whatever. But I would just, in the back of my mind, be like, well, that's a woman who's really a man. That's a woman who's not really a woman. And I just think it's easier to say like that than it is to, I think there's less, it's like a simpler classification system to just say, look, you're tied to biology, but you're allowed to do whatever you want. You're allowed to be a man who wears dresses and likes singing and dancing and art. You're allowed to be a woman who is butch and has short hair and takes hormones and has a beard. I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, I understand I'm not transgender, and I'm sure a lot of transgender people don't feel this way. And it's very important to them that society sees them as a woman or as a man. But for me, maybe being outside of that, I just don't get it. Like, I don't get what the big deal is. Just like if I'm a man, if someone misgenders me, I don't care. Well, who cares? Who gives a shit? Like, I know I'm a man, and so if you're a woman or if you're a transgender woman, and I say, well, you're really a man, why do they care? Why wouldn't they just be like, well, I know I'm a woman, like, I'm comfortable with who I am. Fuck this guy. Fuck what he thinks.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So I don't know. This young lady, she very well might be a grifter, but like, who knows? How could you ever tell? And yeah, I guess with that we should move on to the king, Nuka Zeus.
Yes, I love this guy. I love this guy. So how did you come across him?
I was just searching for transracial stuff on YouTube, and there's a YouTuber who covered him a week ago, or I guess it was 2 weeks ago now. His name's Get Money Wubby. Is that his name?
I think it's Pay Money Wubby.
Pay Money Wubby. And again, so this guy is a circus act under the eyes of Get Money, Pay Money Wubby. Pay Money Wubby did an hour or something on him, just completely made fun of the guy, completely ripped on him. Ha ha ha, what a fucking idiot this guy is. And I mean, he's definitely like, he's a lot less palatable than Rachel Dolezal. Let's just say that. Like, this guy looks like a white guy. He's got a big tattoo here that says "fuck whites" and another one here that says "black power."
That's across his forearms. Each forearm, one forearm says "fuck whites," one forearm says "white power," or rather "black power."
Yeah. What's the first video I wanted to play? It would have been
maybe the message to the commenters.
Yeah, let me just check. Let me just throw it in the throw it in here and check. No, it's I want to throw my thoughts on the Soul Man movie first, I guess.
Okay, sure thing. Soul Man. Oh, is it not here anymore? Keep talking. I'm gonna pull that up.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this video kind of speaks for itself. I don't know if this guy's gonna see this. I hope so, because we've been in contact with him. So
yeah, actually, I'm gonna send keep talking. I'm gonna send him the link right now. So I actually contacted this guy earlier in the week. He said he probably won't come on the show, but he might if he's got nothing better to do, basically.
Yeah.
So I'll throw him
I feel like.
Yeah,
go
ahead.
So we'll show the audience in a bit.
Yeah.
But are you ready to throw the clip on, or?
No. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna send him the link to the live stream, and I'll see if he messages us or whatever. Yeah. So do your thing. Just fill the void right now.
Yeah. So basically, this guy is not as palatable as Rachel Dolezal. Does not pass. Is not a person that would I mean, maybe not ever, but like certainly not easily pass as a black person, and is failing to pass as a black person. But who, from every single video I've ever watched, and I've watched almost all of his videos, I think this person is sincere, and I think this person thinks that they are black, and in their mind they are black, and there's nothing you could say to this person to ever change their mind about it. I think that this person is not doing this for attention. I think they're doing some other things for attention, and they're like, this person obviously has a huge personality, and I think it seems pretty obvious this person wants to be like a famous, successful YouTuber and a famous, successful entertainer. But I do not think that they're lying about how they feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, he's definitely a little narcissistic for sure. He's like making a documentary about himself right now.
Yeah, I've heard that. Apparently, it's like ready to drop whenever.
Oh, yeah?
But yeah, I would watch it for sure.
Okay.
Do you have the clip lined up?
Yeah, I do. It just here we go. Open, and I'll just do this. Boom. Okay, here it goes. Press and play right now.
Okay, so I finally saw the movie Soul Man. I've had quite a few people messaging or commenting on my videos saying something about how they think I'm Soul Man or whatever. So the way some people were describing the whole situation, I thought Soul Man was going to be different than it was. I was very disappointed in the movie. For one, I thought Soul Man was about a black man who died and his soul got reincarnated into somebody of another ethnicity. And then, you know, how it was sort of like Down to Earth with fucking Chris Rock. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was going to be like
Yeah.
Why don't we just describe what he looks like? So this guy takes skin injections, right? The same injections that Martina Big.
The same injections that Martina Big.
So to me, he kind of looks Arab, actually. But yeah, he's got dreadlocks going on. Apparently, it's not a weave; it's his real hair.
Yeah, that's his real hair. People say he's Jewish all the time.
Mm.
People say this guy is a paid plant by Nazis.
Why is that?
Because they say he's like all the negative stereotypes about black people. So the only way this is like a thing is because like white supremacists are paying this guy to do this to make black people look bad. This is from an interview with he did this interview with some YouTuber who's a big YouTuber. I think he's got like 100,000, maybe more subscribers. His name is Everybody Hates Angel. And this is a black man, or I guess he identifies himself as a mixed race man, who obviously cares about black politics and black issues and whatever. But this guy like ripped him up and down, wouldn't show his name, like banned him from commenting, like just refuses to take this person seriously. And I think a lot of it has to do more with like, well, I mean, he doesn't think that he's black, obviously, but he's really seemed to be pissed off about like this guy making black people look bad with negative stereotypes. So I don't know. Give it a play. Like he's gonna get to the point.
Gonna play now at 47 seconds, starting now.
Like that type of movie. You know what I'm saying? So I watched the movie and I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? You know what I'm saying? It was a bad movie. It had some bad, but the only funny thing I saw in that movie was when he told his parents, he's like, I'm black. It was just, that was funny. I like that was the one thing I kind of enjoyed about the movie. That one little teeny tiny scene was kind of funny. But no, the people that think that that's me, that is stupid, idiotic, and ridiculous. Like I have mentioned quite a few times in the past, you know what I'm saying? I have always been this way. See, in the movie, he took tanning supplements to darken his skin so he can get a scholarship that was only for the black people. You know what I'm saying? Because he needed the money to go through school.
Just pausing right now so we don't get some kind of copyright strike.
So he was just saying about like how he's not doing this to get money. He's not doing this for to get into school. He's always been black.
Yeah,
this is a common thread through all his videos.
Yeah,
always says
this clip actually he's being less of a he appears less of a character in this clip. A lot of his.
That's why I wanted to play this clip first.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's more. He's much more personable in this one.
Okay. And you got a different one coming up, right?
Yeah. So we'll watch maybe another 10, 15 seconds of this, and then we'll show the other one.
Okay. I'm gonna start at 1 minute 43 seconds right now.
See, I don't need money. I'm not doing any kind of tanning supplements for any kind of reason like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm darkening my skin because it's what I've always wanted. You know what I'm saying? Like I said this 1,000 times. Some people that are fat always wanted to be skinny, so they take diet supplements to help lose weight, or people take steroids to help build muscles because they always wanted to have bigger muscles. You know what I'm saying? It is that type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Me taking tanning supplements has nothing to do.
Yeah, he's just basically saying that like it's just like people are taking steroids or taking diet supplements.
Yeah, so I mean that's like you said, that's more of a
down to earth.
This is I don't know if we said this guy's name. It's Nuka Zeus.
Nuka Zeus.
You can find him on YouTube. Nuka Zeus.
Did you know what the origin of that name is? Is that like I got that as a subtle like anti-white thing, like Zeus being a historical like kind of god of.
I think his real name is Zeus.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like Nuke Zeus, like kill white god.
I think he chose Nuka because it's an African name. That's his like coming out name, I guess.
Okay.
That's what I gathered from it. I couldn't, a lot of his videos are really short clips and stuff, so you kind of like put them all together. And in the long form stuff where he talks to people, they don't take him seriously. So it's hard to get. So this guy's
constantly flipping back and forth between like I don't like labels, like don't call me white, don't call me black, I don't like labels, and then he does call himself black, and he also really expresses a lot of hatred towards white people, right? Like he calls white people cave beasts.
Cave beasts, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so he doesn't really. I don't think it's flipping so much. I think that he claims that with his group of friends, where he grows up, everyone accepts him as black, and I think that seems to be true. But he gets a lot of hate on the internet. I feel like he feels uncomfortable when people are like, "You're not fucking black. Fuck you. You're not black. Stop saying you're black." And I think he kind of goes to well, I don't like labels. Well, what is race? Like, what is that? I think he's kind of like falling back in a place where, he obviously likes black people and respects them and doesn't want to like say mean things to them because he wants to be accepted by them, right? So I think he's going to a more like soft place argument. And then he says over and over again in like, not in private, but like in his videos that are more like this, I've always felt this way. This is the thing I've always known I've never had any doubt in my mind. And he gets mad at other people for like, appropriating black culture. He gets really mad, like openly, like, fuck you.
Oh, yeah.
If you're a white, you can't be on a black dating app.
Yeah.
That is for us. That is for black people.
There was one video where he was like driving by and he saw a white guy with a black girl and he's like, man, what the fuck? Like, why is that white boy in my hood with a sister? Like,
yes, yeah. He doesn't like race mixing. He doesn't like white people dating black people. He wants the black race, especially black women. He does not like when black women date white guys. So he wants the black race to stay as pure as can be. And I mean, throw on a message to the commenters.
Yeah, I'll throw that on. 1 sec. Okay, starting right now.
So I have like hundreds, thousands of comments. You know what I'm saying? I can't respond to them all.
Wait.
But there's a couple
sec.
Yep.
So I actually want you to start this at 83 seconds.
83, yep.
So what's that? Minute 40 or something? Minute 43?
83 would be a minute 24.
A minute 24.
Yeah. So I'll start it at a minute 22. Or 21. All right, here we go.
Twisted. Don't get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? Number 2. A lot of people keep saying this fucking shit. And I say it in multiple motherfucking videos. Multiple videos. Even in the video that Wubby made about me, he even posted a clip of me saying it, if I remember correctly. Look. I am not tanning to become black. I did not tan, get darker skin, and now running around saying I'm black. No. See, I've always been black.
Eccentric character.
Ever since I was like, you know what I'm saying? Like the size of my fucking pinky nail.
So
you know what I'm
that's
saying?
that's the Pan-African flag behind him? Is that what that is?
You know what I'm
flag?
saying? Anyways, look.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's the Pan-African
get darker
flag.
skin and then start saying I'm black. No, I've always been black. I've always said I was black. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you can stop
Part
it
2 of
as soon
that.
as he's done talking about how he's
Being
black.
So like his like, you know what I'm saying and all that. I want you to pull up this clip that I sent you actually.
Having dark skin.
It's the Tom Green
first
hip
of all-
hop camping.
first of all-
Okay, I'll let you go. Yeah.
Before you play that,
Yeah.
he is self-aware about you know what I'm saying. In some of his
Yeah.
videos, he has
Oh,
a
yeah.
counter that's like
Yeah,
you know what I'm
yeah.
saying counter, and he
Yeah.
counts them up himself. So he is. Throw on the Tom Green clip. One sec.
Yeah. Oh, you got it loaded?
Yeah. Just could you just talk about him for like 1
Yeah,
minute?
yeah.
There's someone in my house. I gotta address it.
I was just immediately reminded of this Tom Green clip, and Mike is away from the frickin'. Yeah. I mean, there's not much more to say other than that I was immediately reminded of this Tom Green clip, and it is Tom Green wearing a Ronald Reagan mask on the top of his head backwards, and he just did this recurring skit on his show in the 90s, where he was kind of, I guess, a wigger, you could say, and it is his attitudes and his mannerisms and his speech patterns just remind me of this Nuka Zeus guy that we've been talking about. This is a very inopportune time for Mike to leave the stream because I don't have much more to say other than that. But you know what? What we're gonna do? Okay, he's back. Okay, I'm gonna start it now because I got nothing else to say.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
There's
No worries. No worries. I'm gonna start playing now.
Check this out. Today I'm gonna show y'all a little bit about living off the land, a little bit about nature, a little bit about wilderness and camping. You know what I'm saying? First thing
You know
you
what
need
I'm
to know,
saying?
y'all, is how to build a campfire. You know what I'm saying? The average person, when they build a campfire, they come out like a bunch of sissies with a pack of matches. Yo, you don't need no matches. What you need is one of these.
Oh,
a stick
this
of
could not come
dynamite,
out
you know
today.
what I'm saying?
This would not be
That'll
released
start
today.
any campfire.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm sorry about this because what I wanted to show y'all was
He doesn't even have hair. He's got the hair from the mask on the back.
Yeah, I think it's a backwards Ronald Reagan
Yeah,
mask
it's just
on
a-
his.
We'll get the
Yeah.
fire going in a minute. First, I'm going to show you how to cook food. You want to open the can? You got to do it like a real man. Here's the label, yo, I'm getting kind of hungry. Check it out. I think I might have got a bit on my neck, you know what I'm saying? So we didn't quite open up the can, but you do that a few times, you know what I'm saying? You do that a few times, and eventually you might get to the center of... Yeah. Oh man, it seems I can't get my food from the can. I want to make an explosion.
This totally reminds me of
I can't
Nuka
do the
Zeus, though.
implosion. I want to make a decision,
Nuka
but I
Zeus?
can't do
Yeah.
it with precision. You know what I'm saying? I want to get my food out of the inside of the can, but my M5000's not going to do it. What am I going to do?
All right. I mean, I love this clip, but I guess I'll pause it now. It's another minute,
Unless I
so.
go the natural way, like
a
a
naturalist.
naturalist, like any good cat.
All right. I'll pause it right now. Yeah.
So do you? Well, again, so it's very like Wiggers was a big thing when that came out.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he's obviously like making fun of Wiggers.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, obviously, Nuka Zeus does not see himself that way. Very obviously. And Nuka Zeus doesn't seem like Treasure from the Dr. Phil show. He doesn't like.
That was
like,
the black
he's-
woman who said that she was white, or the girl who looked black that said she was white.
Yeah, and so he how would you like phrase this? There's no way he would keep this up for this long. Like, this has been going on for years and years and years and years, and he gets a lot of hate. He gets a lot of flack from people online. I think it'd be a lot easier for him to just have a normal job, kind of like live in his community, and he says people in his community accept him for being black. So, like, if he just had a job, like whatever job he has, working, I don't know, construction or something like that there, he doesn't have to go on YouTube and tell everyone his story and tell everyone how I feel and this and this. Like, he clearly wants to tell people, like, he feels like it's his personal struggle to share this with the world, and he feels like, go ahead.
One of the most so there's a lot mental disorders is very common in the transgender community, and the most common mental disorder associated with transgenderism is narcissistic personality disorder. So I mean that might be something that's showing its face in the transracialism community with this apparent narcissism.
Yeah, I mean, it might be. I mean, he's definitely not a humble guy, let's say, and he's definitely not introvert by any means. He's very outspoken, and if you were gonna criticize this guy, you'd say this guy is like completely out of touch with reality. Like, he doesn't understand what is going on. But again, like, these are things that happen to transgender people, and everyone says it's fine, and everyone's like, look, this is who they are. Who are you to say that they aren't? And I feel like the argument still stands up. Who are we to tell this guy that he isn't black if he thinks he's black and he wants to live and act like a black person, or what he thinks black people live and act like? And again, so like, Everybody Hates Angel was like upset with him. He's like, come on, man, like, this is not what a black person is. This is not what a black person is. But like, I bet where he lives, I bet all his friends talk like he does. He didn't just like go on the internet and get that accent. I bet like he speaks with the dialect of the people he lives around.
I don't know about that, dude. I don't know about that.
You don't think so?
To me, it really sounds like a caricature. Like, it sounds like that, Tom. It sounds like that, Tom. It sounds almost exactly like that, Tom. In fact, Tom Green might not say, you know what I'm saying, enough to be quite like Nuka Zeus. Like, it sounds more like a comedy skit to me. I'm not saying that it is, but like, to say that like, oh, that's how everybody talks around him, I would find that hard to believe.
Okay, maybe not, but like, what do you think? He just watched like a lot of Redman videos and like copied Redman and like tried to like sound like that?
Yeah, I wouldn't put it quite so simply, but yeah, it very well could be like that. I mean, I would like to. So I did see some pictures of him when he was a kid, and he certainly wasn't dressing the way he dresses now, and like doing his hair the way he does now. So I assume that he wasn't talking the way that he talks now then either.
Yeah, I mean, again, so like, I would totally buy it. If this guy turned out to be a complete fraud.
That's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I'm not sure this is the way he's always talked. It sounds more like I'm not saying that it's inauthentic, but it does sound put on. Those are two different things, you know?
Sure. He actually, interestingly enough, in one of his interviews, he said it's something called MC1R receptor deficiency, I guess. It's a genetic mutation that causes him to not have as much melanin as he should. And when you follow his transition videos, I don't mean like racial transition, I mean his change from lighter skin to darker skin. He talks about like always wanting to look a certain way and always being like upset and embarrassed. And he basically talks about it being like, oh, I feel so much more comfortable now that I look how I feel. And he's like, I can't wait to be as black as Wesley Snipes. Like, this is going to be amazing. Like, so again, like, I would think that mirrors a lot of transgender people's transitions. They want to look a certain way. It's a process. It takes time. Hormones take a long time to go into effect. And I think that would mirror their experience if this guy is being sincere, which I think he is. I think he's being sincere.
He's kind of a talented rapper too.
Oh yeah, I guess we can't play his music without his permission.
Well, we can play clips, and I have to. So this is like he's like my favorite rapper at the moment, actually. Dude, no, honestly, I've actually listened this to myself, like unironically. I love it. I messaged him on YouTube. I'm like, dude, send me this song.
This song, yeah.
Because he only puts a sample of it on his YouTube page, and I think
totally, it's a great song.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look up the exact one. I think it's this one, so I'm gonna. Yes, listen to this, audience.
Up in the kitchen, I know when that I would get to meet the prettiest girl up in the world, and I can get into this vibe with a finest girl. I'm gonna be honest. you, I told you, you sold you, your smile showed you that I was on to the ride, but the time to grab and hold you. I hope you was only focused on you.
Dude. All right, pausing it now. Man,
Yeah.
I love that song.
Yeah, he seems actually to be a pretty talented artist in general. Like I've seen some like graffiti and some art and stuff. Like he seems to be a pretty artistic guy.
So his living room, he's doing all these different pieces. He's covering his entire living room in artistic work that's like Black Power and like putting himself on a pedestal. And he's got this one. If you know the video game Doom, there's this iconic image that was, I believe, on the cover of the first Doom game, where it's this mercenary soldier surrounded by demons, and he's on kind of like this big boulder type rock thing, and there's demons grabbing at him, and he's got a gun, he's blasting one in the face, and like another one's grabbing at his arm. So I don't know if you saw this, Mike, but he actually has a big mural.
I have not seen this.
Yeah, so it's in his living room. It's this big mural. It's
tell me it's white people. Tell me it's white people trying to get him.
So it is him. It is him, and he's fighting off. The demons are actually KKK people. So it's all these guys with white KKK hats and everything. Yeah,
okay,
it's pretty awesome.
That's kind of sick. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I could try to pull. Do you want me to try to pull that up? It'll take me like a couple minutes to try to find that. If you can fill the dead air, I can try to pull that up.
Is it like a picture, or is it like a screenshot?
No, it's in one of his videos. Like it's like he's going through the different murals that he has in his living room, and that's just one of them.
We'll throw it up in the next podcast.
Okay, sure, deal.
Yeah,
stay tuned.
It'll just take so long to find. Yeah. So I guess with that, I mean, like, is there anything else you want to say about Nuka Zeus?
No, I guess not. He hasn't gotten back to me. So I assume he's not going to be coming on. But we can send him the video
Let's
later.
just say, just in case he listens, listen, Zeus. This is a message from me to you. I really would like to talk to you. If you want to talk to us, I'm not gonna put you on this podcast to make fun of you. Like, I legitimately am curious what you think. I want to give you a platform. Albeit a small platform, I want to give you a platform to tell like your story. Why do you feel the way you feel? How do you feel when people discourage you? What do you wish people knew about you that they don't know? Like, I totally want to like have an interview with this guy that's fair and unbiased. I mean,
yeah. Honestly, like he seems like a cool guy to me too. He seems like he'd be like fun to be around and everything. Even the fuck white stuff, like. Do you remember when we were in New Orleans and we were outside that convenience store?
Yes.
And like we were talking to like you were talking to some black guys, and like one of the guys, like I got into a conversation with one of them. He's like, "Man, I don't fuck with white people. No offense." Yeah. And I'm like, all right. Well, at least you come out front and say it. Okay.
Yeah, and he was. Yeah, we didn't. You know, I'm not sure I agree with that statement, but whatever. You do you, bud.
Yeah, I mean, I was not supremely offended. That's for sure.
So speaking of white people, why don't we talk about Shaun King a little bit?
Oh, I forgot we were getting into that. Yeah.
So I have gonna have to pull my foot out of my mouth now, because the last podcast I railed on Shaun King for being a fraud, and now after researching transracial people and the stance that I've taken on all the transgender people, I literally don't have a fucking leg to stand on.
Who are you
saying
to
Shaun
judge,
King is
Mike?
not black.
You bigot.
Yeah. So no, I'm not even kidding. Like Shaun King, I owe you an apology. I think that Shaun King is like Rachel Dolezal. He knows he's white, but he feels that he's black, and he's looking at the writing on the wall. He looks at what happened to Rachel Dolezal, and he's terrified to come out. And me outing him is like just as bad as it would be me outing a trans person. Like,
okay, why don't you just start telling us who Shaun King is?
Okay, do you have well, I mean, we talked about last. I guess this is not.
It's a standalone podcast.
Yeah, it's a standalone podcast. So Shaun King is Black Lives Matter mogul, representative. He's huge on Twitter. He's got millions of followers. He's got a book. He is the Black Lives Matter, probably the most important Black Lives Matter voice of our generation.
Up there. Yeah.
Maybe not number one, but top 5 for sure.
He was a TYT journalist for a while.
Yeah,
right?
well, that's kind of funny. For So I remember when TYT put that clip up, and they're like, "We got Shaun King."
Yeah. For those who don't know, TYT is like it is the biggest news organization on YouTube. We're talking like millions. How many millions of subscribers do they have? Like, it's insane. Anyways, go on.
So they actually, I don't know what happened, but he does not work for TYT. He has not been on many videos on TYT. I haven't heard his perspective. I haven't heard him cover anything. I think they must have had a falling out and then just never talked about it because, you know, as far as I can tell, I think there was 1, maybe 2 mainstream videos on their main channel. And I think he jumped into the panel a handful of times with their B squad, you know, the B squad that TYT has when they do those long form shows.
Yeah, I think
like
I don't watch them too much
Irola
anymore,
and
but
like,
yeah, I know. I think I know what you're
anyways,
talking about.
he's not on with Cenk and Anna. He's not on with the 2 main people, like almost never. And so I don't know what they hired him for. I don't know if they had a falling out. But anyways, Shaun King, big Black Lives Matter guy. He was outed by, well, maybe not outed, but he was accused of being white. I think it was Milo Yiannopoulos was first. And then was it Breitbart News?
I'm not sure where it kicked off. I think it was more like a general grassroots all over the place. I'm not sure if it was any one organization that.
But it was the same time as Rachel Dolezal, around the same time as Rachel Dolezal, and she, as you put in the last podcast, she caught a lot of shit, and he kind of just kept going, and nobody said boo. Like nobody gave a fuck really about him.
Well, I mean, people on the right made a huge fuss about it, but yeah, on the left there was not really. I mean, there was some that DeRay McKesson you talked about on the last episode.
Yeah. So DeRay McKesson. Actually, when I was listening to Nuka Zeus talk to Everybody Hates Angel, said, "Hey, look, Shaun King isn't black. He claims his father is mixed race. So he's at most 25% black. That's not a black person." So there are people within his own movement that do not accept him as black. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they. Well, that's not true actually. So, sorry. What I was gonna say is not true. I was gonna say that people think that he is black, or 25% black. But I actually saw a black guy on YouTube ask him about his race and call him out as like a grifter, and he just shut it down and was like, "Next question. I'm not answering this." So you got the pictures of him handy, right?
Yeah. I'll pull them up.
So show up the 420 Blaze It picture. This is how Shaun King presents himself, right?
Just a sec. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So I mean, he is obviously light skinned. He cuts his hair in a stereotypical black way. He's got the fade. He's got the lineup. He's got his beard. I mean, he totally looks like someone where you're like, yeah, I mean, he's mixed race, or he's light-skinned black. Okay, fine, I'm buying it. But then show up the King family picture of him when he's a baby. So now you've got a little red-headed white boy with an older blonde brother and a curly-haired mom. I mean, her hair looks more black than his, but she does not claim to be black. She's white. He claims she's white. And his father is also white, but he claims that that's not his father, that his mother had an affair with a mixed-race man. And then I guess we could show up Shaun King red, so you can see him as, I guess...
Oh, sorry, that's the one I had up when you were talking about him being a kid.
Oh, okay. So do you have the King family one? Where it's him with his mom.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I got that. One sec.
Yeah. That's fine. I've already explained.
Yep, it's up. Yep.
So yeah, I mean, again, Nuka Zeus's childhood photos look like this.
Yeah.
Nuka Zeus's, Rachel Dolezal's childhood photos look like this. What was the other guy we talked about? Jadu.
Yeah.
Jadu's childhood photos would look like this. And they're all white. But Shaun King, he's black, right?
Yeah.
And then if you look at generated white man.
Yep.
So this is a computer. This is a low quality picture. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But it's a computer generated average white guy on one side. Then on the middle, there's a picture of Shaun King. And then on the right, it says average white guy with the Shaun King accoutrements.
Yeah.
And he looks exactly like Shaun King.
Yeah.
It could be like a video game rendering of him. It's so good. I mean, it just seems so obvious. I'm not dark, but I'm not completely white. I'm pretty sure if I cut my hair like this and had the same beard and mustache, I could look like this. I could pull this look off.
So because you obviously, maybe not so much in this podcast, but last podcast, it was very clear that you have a serious problem with Shaun King. Like, you really despise this guy.
I don't like him at all.
I just wonder,
really don't like him,
do you think beyond saying that he's black, is there different ways he should be acting because he's white?
No. Like, I don't care how he acts. Like, he can act however he wants. But like, it seems pretty obvious that he's acting in a way. Well, again, maybe he's transracial, but like, he looks like a fraud, right? Like, he looks like a grifter.
And why don't you talk about that murder, like the killing? Like, you told me earlier in the week that Shaun King is responsible for the death of a man.
Oh dear, yeah. So this was in the news. It's gonna take me a second to pull this up if you want to talk.
Oh yeah, no worries. I mean, it's just interesting because you were saying that like Shaun King had accused a guy of murder, a white guy, of being racist and murdering a black guy for racial reasons. And it's just interesting that this is something that happened in the past, and this guy turned out to be innocent and killed himself while he was in jail. And now Shaun King, we've got this Ahmaud Arbery case that Shaun King has spearheaded, and again, it's accusing white people of being racist and killing black people for racial reasons. And I don't know so much about that last case, but this case, there's yet to be any evidence that this was done for racial reasons. And Shaun King has a history of doing this. And in this previous case that you told me about, the guy killed himself because he was so ruined over this slander. And he was not guilty. He was found. He was innocent. He didn't actually. Maybe you could elucidate the issue.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Is this the guy? I can't find it right now, to be honest. But yeah, basically that's what happened. There was a young man who, like, you read it too on Wikipedia. I didn't just make this up and tell you. You actually read it yourself too, right?
I glanced over it, yeah. But like, give me the rundown. Like, is everything I said correct?
Yeah. So there was like I think there was like a shooting of a young black girl or something, and he put up like a sketch or something. He put up like a description, and this person was arrested as a person of interest, and the media piled on, and this guy was basically like, everyone said it was his fault. He was like, oh my God, my whole fucking life was ruined, blah, blah, blah. And he killed himself. And then later it came out that it was somebody else. And this guy's family is still like receiving death threats to this day over it, about people who I guess just are hearing about this or something. And I mean, that's pretty fucking terrible, man. Like, I don't know, man.
How do you think Shaun King feels about that?
24 years.
Oh, sorry, we got an ad playing on that site. How do you think Shaun King feels about that?
I don't know, but I found the Wikipedia article. So it says on Twitter, King initially posted the mugshot of a white male, Robert Paul Cantrell, who he identified as involved in the shooting. And this is the Jasmine Barnes shooting. A 7-year-old Jasmine Barnes was killed in a drive-by shooting in Houston. King said in a deleted tweet, "We've had 20 people call or email us and say he is a racist, violent asshole and always has been. Just tell me everything you know," end quote. Police later said the man was not connected with the crime, and King deleted the tweet, though not until the man had received threats on social media. The incident was revived in late July 2019 when Cantrell committed suicide in his jail cell, where he was being held on a separate robbery and invasion charges. Just before he died, he allegedly told his lawyer that he was concerned about death threats his family was still receiving in the aftermath of his false involvement in the Jasmine Barnes murder. So he killed himself because, I mean, I guess he's not the only person that this has happened to. I'm sure there's been people who have killed themselves after being falsely accused of rape or murder or something like this. But it clearly was Shaun King who was stoking this fire, right? This kind of he does that. That's what he does. Like he does latch on to a case and then make it
Race
very
baiting.
inflammatory and race bait, and yeah, like he's not a journalist by any means. He's like a race vulture, or like somebody who takes advantage of terrible situations in order to make money. Again, like he might believe in these causes, fair enough. I have no reason to think he doesn't believe in these causes, but the measures that he goes to are pretty extreme and seem to have real world consequences that he is not being held responsible or accountable for, right? These are the kind of arguments we talked about free speech before. These are the kind of arguments people make against free speech. Like, what if you say something? What if you claim something and then it gets somebody murdered? Like, what if, like, do you have the right to do that?
Yeah.
So it's obviously a mainstream kind of gripe that most people should have with Shaun King, but they don't.
So do you think that Shaun King is transracial?
After studying for this podcast, yes, I think it is. I think he's transracial. I think he's felt identified with that culture from a young age, and always wanted to be black. And he's just like, fuck it, I'm black.
Okay.
And
Do you think there's a difference
he hasn't-
between someone lying about their race and being transracial? Is there any difference?
No, I don't think so, because transgender people who pass, like, what's the difference between them and somebody who doesn't pass? It's just one is able to hide in plain sight and the other isn't, right? And it's not a lie, right?
Do you think outside of like personal preference, there's any appeal to changing your race?
Do I think there is? Yeah, totally. What do you mean? Wait, sorry. What do you mean by personal preference? Like,
outside of like, I feel black or I feel white. Do you think there's any reason that anything that would appeal to someone to transition their race outside of, just like I want to eat vanilla ice cream today?
Well, I'd say it mirrors more. I imagine people change their race for the same reasons people change their gender. And those reasons are not all the same. Some people say, well, it causes me a whole bunch of distress. I am under a lot of personal hurt. I feel terrible every day that I have to live as a man. And if I could just become a woman, it would alleviate that pressure. I would feel so much better, right? It's a psychological thing. But some people just say, hey, look, like, this is me. This is who I've always been. I'm not stressed out about it. I know who I am. This is just what I want. And both are reasonable arguments to become a transgender person in that community. I don't see what the difference would be in the transracial community. Could you just throw up the picture of Shaun King with white people haircut?
Yep.
This is a great photo. So this is just somebody's taking a photo of him and photoshopped his glasses out, changed his eyebrows, took his beard off, and put like, I don't know, like an NSYNC haircut on him. He just looks like a happy white guy.
It's not up on screen yet. It will be in a second though. But yeah.
I'm gonna try and tilt my head and smile the same way. He's a lot thinner than I am, but I'm gonna try and.
What the fuck? I don't know why it's not coming up. I don't know. You're just looking stupid right now because it's not coming up for some reason.
It's okay. I'm trying to make the face he's making. Can you not get that photo up?
I don't know. OBS is just doing some weird ass shit right now. It's not. I'll pull it up in another way, but yeah, maybe move on to the next topic.
Well, I guess that's it. So, like, what are your thoughts, man? What do you think about transracialism?
Honestly, like that was my problem with this podcast. I don't really have like any thoughts. Like, it's like, yeah, I mean, sometimes I worry about civilization. There's all types of things that I worry about. And as far as like the greater scheme of things to be concerned about and things not to be concerned about, transracialism just does not stick out to me. It's I mean, like, I could see people having valid problems with it, but it just does not seem to be a issue of particular importance to me. Like I said, like I think it's part of like a larger progression in society, and in order to change that, one would need to like radically change the fundamentals of what our society is built on. What about you? Do you have any final thoughts on the topic?
Well, I think there's really no way to talk about it without upsetting everybody. I feel like there are not very many seriously like not serious defenders of it, but defenders of it who are taken seriously. So it reminds me of what the transgender movement was, I don't know, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. And it seems like it's more inflammatory because it seems like there's a lot of people of color who don't like the idea of a white person changing to a person of color. Whereas the other way, it doesn't seem to be as big a deal. Like, I feel like if a person of color wanted to present as a white person, I don't think it would be as big a deal at all. Maybe this problem is in the transgender community. Maybe people are harder on men who want to become women than they are on women who want to become men. And I'd certainly say like women who become men, or people who transition from male or female to male, female to man. I'm using the wrong language, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
People who become a woman, a man, people who become a man who were not assigned male at birth are they're more accepted. It's way easier to pass, right? Like it's way easier to be to cut your hair and kind of like get your top surgery and just kind of change your style, and you look for the most part like it's easy to look like a small man, right? So maybe that's there, but yeah, I don't know. I think we're going to see a lot more of this in the next 10 years. I think we're going to see more people coming out as transracial, people taking it more seriously, and why not? We've already got transgender people. What's wrong with having transracial people?
Yeah.
The last thing I actually want to talk about.
Okay,
go ahead.
Well, just another aspect. Okay, we got that delay thing going on. We're stepping over each other. But yeah, you go ahead. You go ahead. I'll go. Okay, fine. Well, I think one of the, like I was talking before about fuel for this to become more prominent and more accepted. I think the internet age and all the trappings that come with that is actually good kindling for this, because things are much more image based in today's world, like things like Instagram, like all sorts of social media, and also. You want to be new and exciting to drive traffic and to have eyes on your content. And this comes through with like the whole trender thing, right? People who are transgender just because it's trendy, and they're just kind of hopping on a bandwagon. One could see a bandwagon where you like Nuka Zeus, right? This guy is slowly becoming more popular, like you said. Like this big time YouTuber just covered him. A couple big time YouTubers just covered him. Without a doubt, he will be gaining more and more eyes on him in coming months, and purely because he is transracial. If you give me a hot girl and you allow me to produce her content and direct the way she presents herself, I will get her 1 million followers by making this just a regular hot girl transracial.
Yep, totally.
Yeah,
totally. But,
so there's this inherent appeal there for something like that to happen. It's a market that's waiting to be tapped. The outrage. Go on.
Do you think those people who do that, who are like grifters, or I guess trenders, do you think they're not trans?
Yeah, I'm certain that there are some people who it's more of a passing whim than it is a deep-seated belief. So in that sense, I would say yes.
So what about what's wrong with somebody questioning their gender, even if they do it for the wrong reasons? Like, wouldn't it be better for the transgender community people if more people were allowed to question their gender for any reason, and then if they weren't judged so much, they'd be less pushed into having surgeries that they might have to reverse later in the future. There could be less negative stigma against people who are on the fence and maybe not sure. If people were more accepting of trenders, wouldn't that be generally a positive thing for the trans community?
Yeah.
Who are they hurting is kind of my question.
You find no disagreement with me there. Who are they hurting? I mean, it could be argued that they're trivializing bona fide transgender people, right?
Sure, but isn't that good as well for the transgender community? By trivializing it, it's not a big deal, and it's just something that's way more normal. It's just something that is more accepted, and it's not like it's changing your gender doesn't have to be this big scary thing that you have to go through. It could be something that's just normal and talked about, and hey, if you want to do it, you do it. If it's for you, great.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't have any big disagreements with what you're saying.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe I would say that that's kind of the argument for these people. Like, who is Rachel Dolezal hurting? She's definitely contributed more to the community that she exists in, that Black Lives Matter community, than the most Black people will in their whole lives. And it's not like she doesn't understand the issues. It's not like she doesn't know what it's like to be Black. She does. She lived as a Black person. She's been treated by the police as she sees as Black people get treated. She's been treated by white people the same way. She's like, what's the big deal? If she wants to call herself Black, like, who does it take away from? Does it make you less Black as a Black person? Does it make your identity any less valuable? I don't really get it. Like,
well,
what's
I mean,
the problem?
I mean, there's an argument to be made that societal order and structure and norms could be said to be important, and when you're violating those, it's kind of like shaking the foundations of a building.
Sure, but then why do you let people change their gender? Don't let them change their gender.
I would agree. Like you said before, it's kind of hard to picture someone that believes in transracialism that doesn't believe in transgenderism. They're in some sense tied together. The argument against transracialism being a good thing, or the argument for it being a bad thing, would probably include transgenderism being something that shouldn't be normalized as well.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people who go hard on Rachel Dolezal. I mean, let's take Nuka Zeus out. Let's take Treasure out of this. Let's just talk about someone like Rachel Dolezal. You know, she's the most palatable. Like, this person literally gets on Twitter, like, Black people being like, fuck yourself and die. Like, there's tweets on her Twitter from people who are like, I can't wait to like rape your fucking stupid white kids. Like, I'm gonna rub my dick on your kid's face. Like, just absolutely fucking terrible stuff.
That's not one. Did you read that? Was that one? I'm gonna rub my dick on your. Oh my goodness.
Something. Yeah, that's in. She reads a tweet in her Netflix documentary, and I was like so taken aback that somebody said this. And it, what did this woman do to deserve this shit? Like, this.
To be fair, if you look at the comments on like absolutely anything that's popular, you're gonna find some scum in there.
Sure, that's true. But these are, like, I would say, in the last 20 years, the LGBT community has become very intersectional with the Black community and very sympathetic towards their struggles and their ideas, and they bump up against each other. Like, do you remember the Black Lives Matter shut down the gay pride parade until they took out cops?
Yeah.
And the LGBT the gay community I don't want to be disrespectful. I literally don't want to be disrespectful.
It's
but they have a lot of letters.
LGBTQI plus 2S.
Plus.
Yeah.
Plus 2S. It's okay. So that community basically bent the knee to the Black Lives Matter. They basically said, okay, like, this is an issue that's important to you. We're going to take it seriously. We will make a compromise. And not everyone in that community would agree with the decision, but that's what the decision that was made. And so sooner or later, I could totally imagine that the Black community will have to do the same thing towards the LGBT community if they're going to continue to try and dovetail together and put intersectionality at the forefront of their ideology, which they do, it seems to be what they want to do. So, I mean, I guess that's it, unless you got anything else.
No, I'm just flipping through the clips that you sent me, and I think we kind of covered everything. I mean, we didn't cover the Charlemagne stuff, but you kind of said exactly what he said. I mean, Nuka Zeus does have this GoFundMe that's at like $0. Do you want to talk about that for a second? I'm just gonna, I'll throw that up, and I'm just gonna get a drink of water as well. So I'll throw that up, and you just talk about that for a second. Boom.
Yeah. So let me know when it's up. I guess.
Yeah, it's up right now. It's up right now.
Great. So this is Nuka Zeus's GoFundMe. And if you want to contribute to it, I definitely encourage you. He's got zero money. He wants $100,000, and he's currently raised $0. And I've never seen a GoFundMe with $0 on it. I actually really feel bad for this guy. You'd think some of his friends would kick in. You'd think some of them would kick in. Hey, if you're listening to this, Nuka Zeus, I think you're marketing yourself pretty badly. So this Get Zeus Mental Health, it seems kind of vague, like you haven't really explained it well. Picture that you got, awesome. The picture says like everything I think people need to know.
Yeah.
But then you've got this like description. It says therapy and mental health cost money. If you know me, you really don't need me to explain anything. But here's the thing. GoFundMe is for people who don't know you. GoFundMe is for like a broad audience of people to sympathize with you because they don't know who the fuck you are or anything about you. So like it's going to be really difficult unless you change that description, or maybe have some of your videos or like make a video on it or something.
One of the crazy things about Nuka Zeus, like you were saying, like we were talking the other day, and you were like, "Oh, like everybody thinks this guy's ridiculous. No black people like this guy." But if you look at the comments on his Instagram, like you'll find like a lot of people in the black community, not just black people, but black community people, like people who are putting the clapping signals between each of their words, or the clapping emoji between each of their words, unironically. Those type of people who are really a fan of him, actually. Surprisingly.
Yeah, so I didn't actually read too many of those, but I didn't follow him on Instagram. I looked more on Facebook, not Facebook, YouTube. And it seems like since Pay Money Wubby covered him, like that guy's got a lot of fans that are just trashing his comments.
Yeah. There was a lot. Like I would say there's probably more comments that are making fun of him and like deriding him than there are the pro ones, but it's very substantial, the amount of unique accounts that are saying like dude, like you're doing awesome work, like I love what you're doing, keep it up. Like honestly,
Pay Money Wubby, you're a bully. Like you're a bully. You've got 100,000 fucking subscribers, and you're like you're punching down at this guy who's got what, like 2,000 subscribers.
Oh yeah.
And like that guy's an asshole, man. Like he might come after us if he ever sees this, but like fuck that guy. That guy basically like abused Nuka Zeus for likes, like just for the lulz. Like
we've had private conversations about that guy, and I don't know how far I can go without being defined as slander. Okay, all right.
Yeah, but no, seriously, like that guy's a complete bully. Like that's at least okay. I might say the same thing about Everybody Hates Angel, but Everybody Hates Angel at least had him on the show, had him on the fucking show, got his perspective. Maybe you could say like, oh, well, he didn't give him a fair read. He was too hard on him, whatever. He still let him get on the show and talk to him. And kind of at the end, he kind of is like, okay, fuck you, like, fuck off. I don't want you on my show anymore. I'm done with you. But at least he gave him a chance to be heard. Whereas like Wubby's just like one way, like smashing him in the ground. Ha, what a fucking idiot. Look at this guy. I can't believe what a fucking idiot this guy is. And it's like, okay, like
I would much rather hang out with Nuka Zeus than Pay Money Wubby. Like that guy is like a maggot.
Yeah, but like he's saying things like, this guy's got mental issues. Ha ha ha. Like I'm 100% sure this guy is the kind of person who publicly says like mental health is really important and we need to respect people with mental health issues. I'm 100% like, this guy says this publicly, and then he's like, haha, look at this fucking retard. Look how retarded this guy is because his brain doesn't work properly.
It's like
what a fucking loser.
A feminist that has sex with passed out drunk girls.
Yes. This is exactly what he's like. Oh, I don't like that guy. Nuke, you got a bad rap, Nuka Zeus. I'm fucking standing up for you.
All right. Well, on that note, I think we wrapped up. I think we solved the transracial issue. I think we just did it.
Yeah, I think there'll never be any more problems regarding this issue.
Nope.
They will look back in the history books as this is the moment that everything really came together for the transracial people.
We're heroes.
They finally were accepted in modern society.
We're heroes of the transracial movement.
Yeah, when you build your statue of me, let me like lose a little weight first. I don't want the fat version of me done. I want like the little better. Let me lose some weight before you guys start my statue.
I think I don't want a mustache either. I only have this because I'm working construction right now.
Yeah, well, you guys, when just send the guy over to our house. We'll help guide him on how to make our statue. I'm assuming it's going to happen in the next year or so. So
yeah, we'll take that as it comes. Do you have anything for the grab bag?
I do not.
Oh, you don't?
Well, Ahmaud Arbery, I think you have.
Yeah, I mean, so last episode we covered Ahmaud Arbery, the case that's ongoing right now, and
can we just give me a 30 seconds for a bathroom break? You could talk.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, I guess I'll just keep talking. Maybe try to turn your speakers on or whatnot.
Sure.
Yeah, so we tried to we covered this last week, and it was actually. It was a little difficult for me to get into it. I was mentioning that I had, paid very close attention to the Trayvon Martin case, paid very close attention to the Mike Brown case, and I just saw so many similarities, and it wasn't that interesting. There was a time where I was like, we shouldn't even do this podcast. This is boring as shit. But after I forced myself to pay attention and, reading over the documents, the police reports and everything, now I'm addicted. So while I was, prepping for my transracial podcast this week, I just found myself constantly refreshing Arbery on Twitter, Arbery on YouTube, and I feel like I actually know everything there is to know on as far as what's being published in the media that there is to know about the Ahmaud Arbery case. So, Mike, can you hear me?
So why don't we, can you hear me? Am I
back? Yeah, I can hear you.
So why don't we just fill everybody in? Because this is a standalone podcast, right? So.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so the Ahmaud Arbery case, a video was released a week or two ago of a guy running down the street, and there was a truck parked in front of him, and there was a guy outside of the truck with a shotgun, and a guy on the bed of the truck, which I think he had a handgun on him, and the guy who's running, this was filmed by another truck that was pursuing the runner, and the runner runs towards the truck, dodges around the truck, and then cuts in to the guy with the shotgun, and he is shot 3 times during a struggle for the shotgun. And this blew up as a...
And he died.
Well, yes, he was killed by those 3 shotgun shots, and it blew up as kind of this new racial flashpoint. We were just talking about Shaun King. Shaun King kind of spearheaded this as a racist case.
I think if you want to learn any more about it, you should check out our other podcasts or I don't know, read the news or something.
I mean, it's funny actually because in the Trayvon and Mike Brown cases, there were 2 warring sides. There was obviously like, I'm going to sound like Alex Jones, the establishment left-wing media that was put, but it's true. It's true. There was kind of the establishment narrative that was, racist killers doing racist killing. But there was a very viable right-wing counter to that in both those cases. In the Ahmaud Arbery case, we're not seeing that. But what we are seeing is the same narrative on right-wing media or complete silence. So to my knowledge, certainly this was true a day or two ago, the most prominent right-wing voices like Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, they're radio silent on this. I think Sean Hannity just mentioned that it happened on one of his shows not too long ago. But there's and when there is word of this from some conservative thinkers, it is like, I go on construction sites all the time, and do you want to murder me for going on a construction site? Like that is the only voice that is coming in as far as like the typical right wing, left wing paradigm that's coming from the right. There's no mainstream counter narrative. So the most famous people who are countering this online is like InfoWars, like Alex Jones and Stefan Molyneux. Those are like the only 2 like relatively big names.
I mean everything I've seen that counters it is all like people on Twitter with 100,000 followers or less.
Yeah, it's mostly
maybe
like random Twitter troll, like groypers, random trolls with like 2 followers that are like dropping joggers.
There's like the mainstream far right, everybody who's like in that sphere who debate Destiny and all those people. There's Vincent James. There's
That's
Nick
not.
Fuentes
This is
has
not
talked about
mainstream. I mean, like, okay, I see what
No,
you're saying.
no,
It's
but
the
they're-
prominent
but they
far
are,
right,
like-
so it's like the prominent people on the fringe. Yes, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
They're not nobodies, right? Like they do have huge followings.
They're making livings
but,
doing it. Yeah.
but they're like they're not the mainstream narrative to come out of every major news organization is this guy was going for a jog and he got gunned down in cold blood.
So that's one of the new developments for me.
This is what I want to say about it.
Mhm.
So like when we first saw this and we talked about this on our last podcast, we saw the clip first in entirety
Mhm.
without context.
Yeah.
Now I got in a discussion with somebody about this, and they were saying like, "Look, he's just jogging," and I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, what video are you watching?" And he sent me like a I think it was Now This News or The Guardian or something, a regular news source, and I was like, "Oh, that's edited. Let me get you the full video," and I couldn't find it. It took me like almost 5 whole minutes to find it. I ended up finding it on TMZ. And so, like, imagine me, I found it after a minute, let's say, on TMZ. And then I was like, I don't want to fucking show him TMZ as, like, this is my news source. I'm going to look like an idiot. And so there is, if you go on Google, it's not immediately easy to find the whole video.
Yeah,
Even if you put in his name and write full video, it doesn't come up.
It even
It's just
takes
being drowned
a
out
minute
by
on
mainstream
Live Leak now. Like like we were talking about this earlier. I was actually hanging out with a guy actually earlier today, and I think I mentioned that the last episode was on Ahmaud Arbery, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I know that case. I know what your perspective is," and I'm like, "Nah, actually, that's not my perspective at all." And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Well, I was telling him like what transpired as I saw it," and he's like, "How could you possibly say that?" And I'm like, "Well, did you see the video?" And he's like, "Yeah, I saw the video." And then I said, "Well, my friend, Mike, said that he had a different perspective when he saw the whole video." For me, I got to be honest, when I see the clips, I see the same thing. So the clips are not a big deal for me. But yeah, I showed him, I explained to him the clip as I saw it. And when he watched the full clip, he was like, "Oh shit, like, you know what? Like, you're right. Like, this guy cleared 70 feet running towards this truck. He clearly like went towards this guy with the shotgun, clearly was trying to wrestle the shotgun away from him." And I don't know. I guess the clips that they're showing, like, some people don't see that. You said you didn't see that when you were looking at the clips.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of this thing where it's not shot like a movie, right? So it's not easy to put together in your mind what's actually going on, right? You don't get when people make movies, they have to change the camera angle and like cut the scene here and cut the scene there to tell a story. And so the video doesn't tell a clear story right away. You have to watch it a couple of times and kind of figure out, okay, well, this guy's here. Who's that? Who's that guy? Oh, we're out of frame now. What? Okay. So it's not the world's most straightforward thing.
So one of the new developments in this that has happened over the past week is they're lawyered up, right? The McMichaels are both now lawyered up. And one of the defense teams has said that there are more recordings of the incident. More video recordings of the incident. So
really?
it's not clear to me if they're just saying the incident and that's like some broader thing that encompasses weeks and weeks and weeks. To me, when I hear the incident, I think of the shooting. So it's very, very well possible that there is more video of the shooting, though. I mean, if there was a dash cam on that truck, or it seems like a bunch of these houses had security cameras, so like one of those could have caught it. But both defense teams are clearly saying, like, so yes, they said that there was more video of the incident, but they're also saying that there's more video, period, of everything. And it paints both Arbery and the McMichaels in a much different light that has been obviously portrayed in the mainstream media right now.
I think it's kind of like almost disgusting
that these people are showing clips of the video, not in its entirety, and then like leveling these charges against these two guys.
So it's crazy. So another thing that's come out is there's previous 911 calls that have been released now. And what you saw, what I saw while I was perusing the comment sections of everybody talking about this case was, oh, you know, yeah, he was scared that like Ahmaud had a gun. Come on, that's a lie. So this new 911 call comes out. This was roughly 2 weeks prior to the incident, and it was Travis McMichael, the guy that was holding the shotgun that killed Ahmaud Arbery. And he's on the phone with 911 outside of that house that was under construction. He sees presumably allegedly Ahmaud, go into this building, and he's on the phone with the 911 operators, and he's saying like, listen, this guy looks like he's got a gun. I saw him reach into his pants. The gun was... Travis McMichael himself recently had a gun stolen from his car 2 doors down from that house under construction. And he wants the cops to do their thing. Like, if I was in his shoes, I would not be as reluctant to actually engage with someone. Like I would probably in that 2 weeks prior have gone out and gone to the construction site and be like, yo, what's up? What the fuck are you doing? Like, are you stealing shit? Like, did you steal my gun? Who are you? I don't know you. Why are you 2 doors down from me doing this shady shit? But he stayed in his car and was like, yo, send some cops. Like, guys, do your thing. Just be careful. I think he might have a gun. So, and then you show this to these people who are saying, who had been saying like, oh, he was afraid he had a gun. Yeah, come on. He's just some racist making an excuse. And you show them that clip, and they're like, nah, it's not relevant. And then they just move on to the next thing, and they're like, yeah, but, he was only worried that he had a gun because he was black. And, like, if he was white, he wouldn't have been worried that he had a gun. Like, it just, the goalposts just keep moving, and there's no way to...
I was going to say they kind of, like, endlessly move the goalposts. Mm-hmm. So at first, the mainstream media is like, well, he's just out for a jog. And then they're like, well, there's video of him in a construction site.
No, but they're still saying that. That's the other crazy thing is they have doubled down to no end. NPR, they're still saying that he was a jogger based solely, as far as I can tell, on the mother saying that he was out for his jog. This guy was wearing cargo khaki shorts, which you can go running in.
We said in our last video that he was wearing boots. It came out that he's not wearing boots anymore. So
it's true. Well, yells at me for that. It's that's not entirely clear. Like, so one of the things is that he might have stolen construction boots from the construction site and then been running in those. Probably not. But
I think I saw a police report that said he was wearing shoes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't remember anymore because I've looked at so much stuff, but I think they said he was wearing a white t-shirt, shorts, shoes, and they found a hammer on him. But I can't remember.
No, I don't think you read that. I honestly, like, I'm going to have to call bullshit on that. I don't think he had a hammer on him. I've heard all the conspiracy theories about the hammer. There is an artifact on the road that looks like a hammer. Yeah.
Memory's a funny thing, and mine especially because I drink.
Yeah, we'll look more into that, but I'm going to say that is just a beer thought.
Sure. Okay. So yeah. I made that up, but basically, the narrative that he was just a jogger seems so absurd at this point. Like, he obviously was not.
He might have been out for a jog, but to say that is actually for certain what's happening is just like a press X to doubt. Like, that is I don't know about that.
I guess you could say he was jogging in the video. Like, there's video footage of him jogging.
So was he jogging? Like, since last week, there's been more video that has come out, security camera footage from that house under construction. At least 4 previous times, it appears to Ahmaud Arbery appears to have visited the site at night. Was he night jogging and then going to this place?
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, once you see other footage of him there multiple times, what is his fascination with this house? Why does he keep going into this house?
So there's been interviews with some of his friends now, and so they say that he was an aspiring electrician.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. That's something. That's better than.
It's better than nothing. And then, so another theory is that he was going in there to find a drink of water.
Okay, but hold on. So he's out. Wait, wow. Okay, hold on. So he's an aspiring electrician, why is he going there at like 4 a.m? Why is he going there at night? Or what time? Like, is there a timestamp on those videos yet?
Well, some of them are definitely at night. Like it's night vision that they're shot in. So.
Yeah, but we don't know the exact timestamp, right? There's no clock on there.
I think there is. I don't remember the exact time, but I think there actually is a timestamp. And
well, I'm just saying, like, let's say
Larry English, the owner of the house, has the time.
Let's say you're out for a jog at 9 o'clock at night. That's a lot more reasonable than being out for a jog at 2 a.m. And especially
I don't know. It's neither here nor there. Like people can jog at any time. Bigot.
Sure, but like I think it's a little different to go for a look at a construction site when you're jogging in the middle of the day to go for a look at a construction site when it's like 3 a.m.
So I don't have much to say about this, but another thing that came out that I should say is that the father, Gregory McMichael, he was an investigator with the previous district attorney, and he actually investigated other cases with Ahmaud Arbery. So who knows if he remembered what Ahmaud Arbery looked like, but Ahmaud Arbery did have a criminal past. He like I said in the last podcast, he carried a loaded gun to a high school basketball game for a high school he did not attend. He shoplifted previously. He ran from the cops previously. And Gregory McMichael was involved in investigating Ahmaud Arbery. So, I mean, this just adds to reasonable suspicion of a felony being committed.
Did we find out where he lives? Because we were saying before he lived something like 12 miles away. But did he live there, or did he live with his mom?
You mean Arbery? Yeah. So Arbery, the reports now are that he lives with his mom, which is actually fairly close. It's actually 2 miles away.
Okay.
Take everything with a grain of salt. Like his mom is asking for the death penalty for the McMichaels. This is a grieving mother, obviously, but I also think that she would say anything to kind of exonerate any kind of character assassination on her kid.
I think also we should I feel like people will think we're being kind of cold-hearted when we talk about this story. It's not like we don't sympathize with the shooting. Like, it's not like we don't. Obviously, nobody wants this guy to get shot. But I feel like
there's literally no one that's making the argument that this guy deserved to die. Like, other than maybe like some wacko like who is doing handstands naked. Like nobody is really, no serious person is saying that he deserved to be killed.
Well, I think he wouldn't have been killed if he didn't dash for that gun. You know, if you kind of look at the lead up to it, like if they wanted to shoot him, they had plenty of time to shoot this guy.
So if they wanted to kill him, why didn't they kill him in the previous altercations, the previous times they saw him and called 911? Why didn't they kill him the first time they saw them? Why did they pursue him? Why did they park their car and get out and not kill him? Why did they wait until he was in striking distance of them to kill him? Like if they wanted to kill him, they could have made it so much easier.
Yeah, I mean, it seems. I don't know. So what is what do you think is going to happen? Do you think?
Okay, well, I do want to say that my bona fides are checking out. You know, sometimes I got a lot of self-doubt. I got a lot of I'm self-critical a lot. I doubt myself a lot. But our last podcast, we covered that KKK hooded grocery shopper. And I said, you know what? It's most probable that this guy was making a statement about COVID-19 masks, and he was just trying to show people how ridiculous they looked in his eyes. And sure enough, the police interview, that's what he says he did. So
exactly what he said he did.
So I might be a random nobody on the internet, but I do have a perfect track record right now on predictions.
1-0.
My bona fides are checking out. And I'm just going to go off the rails. I'm not going to even there are things that I could say where it's like, well, if this, if that, but I've actually constructed flowcharts, and I actually sent you one of my flowcharts. I've broken down the math on this. I've game theoried it all out, and I'm telling you right now, these guys will not be found guilty of their charges, which is murder and aggravated assault. It's not going to happen. And what's going to happen after that is riots. Presumably there will be random white people getting assaulted, maybe some killed. And ultimately, this is actually going to be very good for the Democrats in the United States. It's going to energize the entire public to move legislation their way. So in Georgia, they were already trying to pass a hate crime laws. Georgia is one of the few states without hate crime laws. And there was, I don't remember the exact bill, but there was a bill that had just passed the House and it got put on hold due to COVID-19. So this, that's going to be a slam dunk. Anti-gun laws, citizens arrest, stand your ground. All that stuff is like, there's going to be a lot of energy to get that stuff off the books and to enact.
I have seen a lot of people who kind of said, yeah, well, they shot him in self-defense, but why did they need guns to begin with? Like, why were they if we had better gun control, if we had stricter gun control laws, this man would still have his life.
Yeah, ultimately, it seems to me that most people's disagreements are not so much like. It seems to me that most people who are against this, their disagreements are not so much like, oh, these guys did something illegal. They just have a problem with the laws. Like, a lot of people who are anti-gun obviously think this was a terrible mistake. People who are anti-citizens arrest. So people keep calling them vigilantes. There's multiple definitions of what vigilantism is. As far as taking the law into your own hands, that's literally what a citizen's arrest is. That is what a citizen's arrest is. So in that sense, any citizen's arrest anybody ever tries to do would be vigilantism. The other definition of vigilantism is unlawful behavior like that. So if it's unlawful, that'll be found in court.
So when does it go to trial? 2 months?
It's not set yet. Their lawyers are saying that at, I believe it's like the bond hearing or like the initial hearings, the lawyers are actually trying to get the case thrown out and not even going to trial. They say they have evidence that potentially could get the case totally thrown out from the get-go, which would be interesting if there was actually no trial. But they said they're going to release a bunch more information at the hearing.
Yeah, I mean, if it gets pushed back a bit, it might coincide with the election, because the election's in November in the U.S., right?
Yeah.
So it could be an election issue. It could be a literal debate.
What's crazy is that from a political strategy standpoint, this is so good. This is so good for the left and the Democrats in the United States. This is gold. So, especially if they get off. If the McMichaels are not found guilty.
But do you think that the left-wing media knows this and is aware of this and is pushing it because of this?
Certainly the people higher up. I'm sure that 99% of people are driven by the emotional content and the immediate facts of the matter and the sense of injustice that is felt, someone getting killed in this circumstance. But from a political strategy point, being cold-hearted about it, this is great. This is what you want to be happening.
I mean, I think that's pretty glib, but
what do you mean?
I wouldn't put it past. Well, I mean, it's sad that that's the truth. But
I'm not saying it's not sad. I'm just saying it's
Yeah, I mean,
it's reality.
I guess it's safe to say we both don't have a lot of faith in journalism today.
Well, it's just like if let's say a radical sect of Black Panthers rose up, or let's say Islamic terrorism, that's good for right-wing politics. That's good for the Republican Party. If there was a Iranian that set off a bomb in New York City, it would be a tragedy, but it would be very good from a political standpoint for that would increase Donald Trump's voter turnout. It would increase his percentage of the vote. So from a political perspective, it would be good news. Do you know what I'm saying? Do I sound crazy?
No, I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying it's very disappointing. It's a very disappointing thing to hear.
It's the way the world works.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? So what can you do? But is there anything more interesting to say about the Ahmaud Arbery case? I guess we finally figured out what his name was. We could never get his name right on the last podcast.
I've said it yeah. I mean, because like I feel like I'm like a wealth of knowledge. Do you have any other questions about the case? Because I feel like you have like a more normal perspective on it than I do. Like,
sure, yeah. So a lot of things that I've been hearing are like Ahmad is actually the one who's engaged in self-defense because he thought his life was in danger because he was basically being accosted by 2 armed men.
Yeah.
And he had no choice but to go after the gun because if he thought they were going to shoot him, what other option did he have? So like, what would be the counter argument to that?
I honestly like watched the whole video. I don't mean to be glib, but he doesn't have a problem with trespassing. This is clear. He doesn't have a problem with trespassing. There was a no trespassing sign outside of that construction site. It was not like an unmarked construction site. There was a no trespassing sign. He does not have a problem with trespassing. Why would you run, if you were afraid for your life, why would you run roughly 70 feet towards armed gunmen as opposed to run away from them into someone's yard? So, like, you could make the argument like, oh, well, like, I mean, those are private properties. You can't run into those yards. This guy does not care about private property. Like, he could run onto these yards.
Well,
it's not like...
Sure, maybe, but you could make the argument that he had a previous relationship with these people. They've been kind of like part of prosecuting him for other crimes, and he might have felt like, fuck, I know these guys are out to get me. Like, they're gonna kill me. Like, I'm sure that might be one way their lawyers might spin it. Like, if he feared for his life, does he have the right to go for the gun? Does he have that right? Like, what
if there's reasonable fear, if there is good reason to fear for your life, sure. Is that good reason though? It does not check it. Like, explain to me how somebody might think that's good reason. Well, let's say. Okay, go on.
Let's say he also had a gun. Let's say he was legally carrying a gun.
Okay.
And he was out for a jog with a gun, and these 2 people approach him. He's trespassing. We're not going to say he doesn't trespass. He's on video trespassing, but he was just there checking out the electrical works.
Sure.
He was going back on his jog. He's got a gun, and these 2 guys show up, and they're both strapped, and there's a third guy behind you. And like, let's say he had pulled out his gun, and then there would have been a shootout. Who would it matter who shot first? Would it like? How would you decide who would be in self-defense position?
Well, let's take it step by step. He pulls out his gun. It's totally okay. You can pull out your gun.
Well, hold on. So they're like, he's running towards a car where someone's already holding a gun. Like, they're holding a gun in their hand.
Sure.
And so now he sees these people. He pulls out his gun.
That's fine.
He's not pointing at them.
That's fine.
But he's got his gun.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of easy to see. They start yelling at each other. One person fears for their life, and they kind of like have a shootout, and one of them dies.
No. You're just brushing off the most important part. Like you would need to take who points the gun. The person who points the gun first is the person who is at offense there, and the person who, if someone is pointing a gun at you, then self-defense kicks in.
Okay, but why is that true? Like, why?
Yes.
Like, if I'm in my house, well, I guess they're not in the house. I guess that makes sense. Because like, I can't just walk by someone else with a gun and be like, I feel threatened, and then point my shoot them because
And that's another argument that's being made. It's like so they were telling him to stop, and they had guns, and a lot of people are saying like, well, that's essentially kidnapping, right? Like, if you're telling them to stop, so. And the argument that I made to you earlier in the week is like, if I'm at a restaurant, if I'm in Georgia where open carry is legal and everything, and I'm at a restaurant and I got my gun, I'm strapped, I got my gun on the table, like right here, I'm like, bam, I got my handgun, and I didn't like my minestrone soup. It was nasty. It was cold. There was no noodles in it. That waitress comes over and I say, hey, take that minestrone soup off the bill. And if she thinks to herself, oh my God, he's threatening me with a gun. And she thinks to herself, like, oh my God, I'm going to get that gun off that guy. And she goes for that gun. She tries to grab at it. And I shoot her. You have a disagreement with the law if you have a problem with that. Like, when someone is trying to steal your gun from you, that is a life or death situation.
Yeah. And well, I mean, there definitely would be a situation though where somebody had a gun and were behaving in a way that was unlawful and did threaten you, and you would have a right to try and grab the gun. There definitely is.
Oh
that
yeah.
situation.
Oh yeah. For sure.
So it's just a matter of like, did he A, feel that he was in that situation, and B, could that be proved that he's dead, right? So it's like we can't ask him. But with the evidence available, could that possibly be proved?
That's not the case though. The case is more what the McMichaels were feeling. So as far as like what he was feeling, that doesn't matter. He could have been feeling great. He could have been feeling terrible. He could have been, you know what? These guys ain't gonna do shit. You're not gonna shoot me. I'm gonna take your gun and show you what's up. He could have been thinking anything. Like what he was thinking is irrelevant. It's what the McMichaels were doing and thinking that is on trial.
Well, I think that might be the crux of the problem, because I feel like a lot of people who defend him identify with, they put themselves in that shoes and they say like, this is how I would have felt if I was in that situation. And I don't think anybody is thinking, well, what would I have felt if I was the McMichaels? Like, how would I have felt? Because, you know, they're just kind of like the enemies in the story they're the bad guys in the story that's being put in the mainstream media, right?
So on the previous 911 call, there was actually another armed manhunt for Ahmaud Arbery that happened 2 weeks prior.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so when Travis McMichael got off the phone with 911, there were other. Sorry, what did you say?
No, go ahead. So 2 weeks before.
Yes,
roughly
2 weeks prior.
You talked about.
Yes.
This is the one that we were just talking about.
Yes. And after that call, there were some other neighbors outside as well, and they got strapped and they went out searching for this guy and they couldn't find him. He got away.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh shit. So this could have happened 2 weeks ago. The exact same thing could have happened.
Yeah, and it would have been a slightly different story because the last name of one of the guys that was strapped was Perez. Hispanic.
Yeah.
Then again, it could have been like Zimmerman. He could have been white Hispanic.
Yeah, or passing race.
They like the media pretty much coined that term for Zimmerman, white Hispanic. It was like no one's even sure if that term was ever used before the Zimmerman case.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because everybody had been calling him white, and it's like, hold on, this guy's like.
But don't they use Hispanic people as white all the time in?
In some census stuff.
Like
in some census stuff.
Yeah, census stuff. Yeah.
But the term white Hispanic was not in circulation before the Zimmerman case.
All right. So I guess these guys will go to trial and we'll see. The media seems to still have a love affair with this story. I imagine it will last at least a couple more days, maybe weeks, maybe months.
But I'm telling you right now, like
it seems
people
to be running out of steam.
Yeah,
I agree. The story seems to be running out of steam.
because there's no like let's say if Tucker Carlson was on every night and he was saying like, hey, like, you know, what about this, what about that, what about like, if there was some pushback and friction, then I think the story would, you know, be continuing to be prominent in the public eye. But it's the narrative in this one is just set, like it's just set. So that's what's going to be really interesting when they get off. Like when they're found not guilty of what they've been charged with.
Well, it might be that Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham are purposely not covering this story because they want it to kind of go away as quickly as possible and be a nothing burger kind of thing. Because it'll be bad for the Republican Party and bad for Donald Trump getting elected.
Them getting off?
Well, not them getting off, but just the story in general. So they're like, if I don't talk about it, it seems to be running out of steam. We can kind of let it die down a bit. And then when it flares up again, when these guys get off again, we'll deal with it again, but we'll just kind of ignore it. We'll pretend it's not a big deal. And then the less attention
I mean,
we
you
give to it, the better.
can't have a video of someone getting shot to death and it look good. You know, there's unavoidable emotional reaction to something like that. If there was no video and it was just like words on a screen and conversations, that would be different. But you kind of look like an asshole when you defend the McMichaels. Like, there's not really any way around it.
Yeah, totally. All right. Is there anything else you got in the grab bag?
No, man. No. I'm excited to listen to this episode.
Yeah, what did we run there? Is that almost 3 hours?
Dude, it's 2.5 hours. That's like our longest episode yet.
Yeah, did we get any chats?
Oh yeah, let me check. Oh yeah, I wanted to just give a quick shout out to Andre Nicotina. That was our first live chat ever that we got. He just said it was nice to hear from us, and that he watched the Handsome Truth episode, and it was nice that it was refreshing to see some people that don't get offended at everything, and that's what we do best.
He gets us. You totally get us, Andre. That's us in a nutshell.
That was cool, man. It was cool to get a live chat there. But I'll pull up the live stream. I doubt we have anything. Do we have anything? No, there's nothing in the chat this time. Damn. No. But we did have a couple viewers. I did actually notice once or twice that there were a couple viewers live. So that's cool. And we'll see how this performs in the coming week.
Let's get Nuka Zeus on if he's up for it. We'll do the Nuka Zeus interview as
hopefully we get like 100 views on this, and then he'll be more enticed to come on.
Yeah. I hope if he does listen to this, he doesn't think we're misrepresenting them in any way. I actually legitimately don't try to see things as necessary.
Yeah. I think we've been fair. I think we've been judicious. I think we've been kind. I think we've been kind of the best
Definitely
people on the
didn't
face
bully
of
him
the
like everybody else that fucking talks to this guy. Jesus Christ. Yeah. So I guess that's it.
And on an upward inflection. I guess that's it. There you go. That's the one we want. That's the one we want. Yeah, cool. Well, I'm playing the outro song right now, so we're good.
Nice. All right, cool. I'll stay on the line afterwards.
Yeah, cool. All right. I actually kind of like playing this whole song. It's like it's a 3-minute song, but it's so nice. It gets people in the mood. Like, man, I want to watch the next episode because these guys are so cool.
I really like the one where you ended on the North Korea song when we talked
That
about North Korea.
was good. That was
I was like, oh man, this song's amazing.
I was thinking about ending on the Nuka Zeus song today, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think consistency of just ending on our closer is good. By the way, did I mention this before? Like, I actually stole these from a guy on SoundCloud. I did mention in the previous episode. I didn't make these songs. It was some guy that had 0 followers, and I'm pretty sure there was something in the descriptions like, use my songs if you want, just like credit me. The guy's name was Moonman on SoundCloud, but I cannot find this guy. There's like 6,000 people named Moonman on SoundCloud. I cannot find it again, but yeah.
We'll find you,
Shout outs to, I don't think we will. I tried. I probably tried for like an hour to find this guy. But yeah, good tracks. Anyways, man. So next episode, I was thinking maybe one idea, because I've been wanting to look into him, is Jeff Bezos.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What? Any preamble towards that, or just Jeff Bezos?
No, I mean, he's the richest man in the world. Like, he's profited so much off of the COVID stuff. Maybe not this up. Like, I got to fix my laptop. There's so many things on the go, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, man.
All right.
We'll talk more about what we're gonna do next episode, and the stream is about to end. So goodbye, y'all. Have a good long weekend.